What's going on? What's going on, Film Fam? Welcome to another episode of Let the Film Speak. I am one of your hosts, Chop. Here with my main man, Willie Jack. Willie Jack, how you doing this evening, my man?
Oh man, it's Wednesday. We're gonna talk about man. Feeling good, feeling great. Y'all know what's going on.
You short and sweet, Willie Jack. Short and
Oh
sweet
yeah.
today, man. And that's the way we're gonna need to do it, man, because we got a lot going on today, man. First and foremost, the topic of the day is offensive lineman, man. We getting in them trenches, man. And the way we're gonna do it today is we usually do a top 10 of a position group, but because we got only a few more weeks before training camp gets in full effect and the season actually starts, man, we gotta start moving a little bit, Willie Jack. So today we're gonna do five names, the top five for centers. We're gonna move to the guards. We got top five for guards, and then we also got top five for your offensive tackles. We'll probably throw some honorable mentions in there as well, as we always do. But we focusing on those trenches, man. Those big uglies, those guys that are protecting the QBs and opening up those lanes for those running backs, man. So we're gonna jump into those guys today. But first, we got to jump into those house rules, man. That's like, that's share, that's subscribe. That's one of the house rules you got, man. Become a member of the Film Fam. Tap in with your boys. Check in with us. Talk to us. We talk back, as my dog Willie Jack likes to say.
That's a
We
fact.
appreciate all the support, man. And like I said, become the newest member of the Film Fam. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell. How else are you going to know when me and Willie Jack got something going on, when we got something cooking, and what we got coming up next? You got to hit that notification bell. Become the newest member of the Film Fam, and I guarantee you we will not let you down. All right. Now let's go ahead and jump into the news for today, man. We getting right to it. The first bit of news, man, we had a couple signings, man. Let's jump into those contracts, Willie Jack. We talking bag talk. We talking bag alert. We talking
Oh
about
yeah.
love to see it, hashtag, you know what I'm saying? All those different things. First person, the Jets. Quentin Williams, man, the defensive tackle of the Jets, he signs a 4-year, $96 million contract that includes
Woo.
66 million guaranteed. Willie, holler at
Woo.
you for me.
Hey, Lexa, cue the King Dolph get paid, man. Love to see that. Y'all know what's going on, man. Love to see all the players get paid, man. Big bad bag security, all that. Y'all know what's going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. This deal makes him the second highest paid defensive tackle in the league behind Aaron Donald of the Rams. Williams is coming off of what I feel like, and you can disagree if you need to, Willie Jack, and elaborate more. But off his best season yet, he's still young. He's only 25. As of right now. Had his first All Pro season, and with the direction that the Jets seem to be moving, or the direction that they're wanting to go, it only makes sense that they go ahead and sign Quentin Williams and get him a new contract in there. To solidify one of their better defensive players, a guy that's going to lock up when it comes to defending against the run and take on a lot of blockers, man. So, Willie Jack, what's your thoughts on this move?
No, I love it, man. I was a big Quentin Williams guy coming out of Alabama. Thought he was supremely dominant there. I think he probably got off to a little of a slower start than maybe we would have wanted to see. But honestly, I just think that team around him was in a bad way. That Jets roster for a while there was just pretty terrible, and he was one of the key guys. Get him in there, and then they've done a great job of building that team up around him. We've seen the pieces they've added. What they went to the defensive line, I think in the last two drafts, they got Sauce Gardner in the top 5 pick as well, who's already turned into an elite guy at the position. And so that defense, kind of spearheaded by Robert Salah, is made strides tremendously already. And then now you've got a nice young centerpiece on that front line in Quentin Williams to really build around going forward. But I agree, like you said, man, definitely a career year as far as production and his accolades and recognition in the league as well. So I think you were right on, man. So a career year, and like I said, and to be as young as he still is, man. I mean, buy early on these guys. He's 25, and so I think the timing and the contract both make sense.
Absolutely. The best is yet to come, man. And plus, the Jets are a young team in general, so they're probably going to have some other contracts coming up in the next few years. So, hey, go ahead and get Quentin Williams out of the way. That way you can, figure things out for later on down the road. Let's move on to the next signing, Willie Jack. And we're going to go over to Jacksonville, where we had the Jaguars. They signed their tight end, Evan Ingram, to a 3-year, $42.5 million deal that includes $25.5 million guaranteed. And like Quentin Williams, man, he is coming off his best year yet. Okay. Before this past season with the Jaguars, Evan Ingram was really tiptoeing on that line of becoming a guy that was, very disappointing to a lot of people. He had all the athletic traits. He was fast. He had the good size. He can jump. You know what I mean? He had all those different tools. It was just like, okay, can he put it together? He wasn't able to quite put it all together with the Giants, but it seems like Doug Peterson may have unlocked him as a really good tight end in the league in the future. And this upcoming season is really going to be the sign in terms of saying, all right, is he real deal? Is he legit? Or, was that an outlier year? What's your take on this one, Willie Jack?
No, I think this would make sense as well. Just like you were saying, and we hate to use the bust word and all
Right.
the things that it gets thrown around a lot too casually a lot of the time, but he was trending that way. And so just like you said, a supremely athletic guy. Now he's one of those guys he's a big receiver playing tight end. And so I think he was closer to maybe 6'3", probably closer to 230 pounds, but he ran like 4'4", coming out of Ole Miss. And so like I said, with the explosion of the athletic tight end that we've seen over this last 5 to 10 years, spearheaded by guys like Travis Kelce and things of this nature, looking for him to hit the ground running and kind of affect the game like that. Like my dog Chop said, man, it just didn't come together for him in New York. And so goes to Jacksonville on kind of a 1-year flyer year and balls completely out. Just like Chop said, sometimes it's not necessarily where you at, maybe it's not, like I said, it wasn't where he was at, it was who he was with. And so the things that we expected to see from him coming in, and maybe over these last first 5 years, we saw that now. He's still a pretty young guy as well, which is also, it feels like maybe because of how long it seems like he was a dud in New York, it almost feels like he's older. I think he's only like 27, or you may have even said his age, and I may have missed it. He's like 26, 27, still a very young guy. And we saw just how dangerous he could be in the right situation or the right circumstance, and so makes sense to keep. We saw the big jump that Trevor Lawrence just took last year. No reason at all to take a weapon away. And so get him paid. The contract appears to be, I guess, manageable in line, or was it 42 over 3, I think is what it was. And so, or somewhere in there, I believe you said.
Yeah, 42 over 3, 42
Yeah,
and
there
a
we
half.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 42 over 3, which is good tight end money. I don't know where it ranks as far as in the line with the highest paid guys at the position, but I imagine it's somewhere closer to the top, but maybe not at the very top. And so again, same thing, man. I think good talent. You're building something there with Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Keep those weapons where they are, as long as you can afford to do so, and they could. So I like that move as well.
Gotcha. All right, Willie Jack. On to the next one, man. Let's move over to Pittsburgh to my dog Willie Jack's home team. You know what I mean?
What you say now, Chop?
Let's go to Pittsburgh, man.
Oh, okay,
Let's go over to your squad, man. We got your boy Alex Highsmith.
yeah.
He signs a 4-year extension with the Steelers worth $68 million. And if you paid attention to our last show, he actually made an appearance on the top 10 list as far as edge defenders for my dog Willie Jack. You know what I mean? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step on out the way and I'm gonna let you talk about this one first, man, before we jump right into it, man. So tell me what you think about this one, Willie Jack.
Man, I love this deal, and honestly, I'm in some other sports groups, and so like different little Steelers circles or whatnot. This is the number I was looking for. I was looking for somewhere 17 to 18 a year is where I was looking, because it's not quite that premium elite Batman $20 million plus number that we see from TJ Miles Garrett and Nick Bosa, like those guys at the top. So it's not in there, but I think the 17 that averages out to 17 million a year, and it's right in there in line with guys like, I think that's similar to the number that maybe Hassan Reddick is getting from Philly, I want to say, or it's right in there. It made sense numbers wise for like the guys who aren't near the top of the league as far as just considered elite, but are very productive pass rushers. And so it made sense. And I think that position as well, it gets paid on the open market. So we saw Bud Dupree, who wasn't as good as Alex Highsmith in his first 4 years with us, leave and get $16 million from the Titans, and he's cut within 18 months of signing that deal, but he wasn't nowhere near as productive as we've seen from Alex Highsmith, and even getting a chance to see him, like I said, without TJ Watt and still be so productive as was. And then here's the thing as well, man, and I realized that when we were talking last week about edge players, but I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to insinuate what it could lead to, but his stats last year were almost identical to Michael Parsons. Now, him and Michael Parsons are different players, but I'm talking about like roughly 65 total tackles, 14 and a half to 14 sacks, or 14 and a half to 13 and a half sacks, something like that. So, and I think even his forced fumbles were pretty similar. I think Alex Highsmith had 5 forced fumbles last year as well. So his raw production, just the raw stats, were literally like almost identical to Michael Parsons' production that he got all year long. Now, Michael Parsons he's the Batman in his situation, and he's the spark for the whole defense, and so that can't be taken away. But it still makes you feel good, man. We got Alex Highsmith giving us that production for 17 when it's time for market prices to get paid for that for that style production, or if that's the track he keeps, it's probably gonna be another 10 on top of the 17 we paying for. And so all told, man, I'm glad that we got him there. I'm glad that number I think makes sense for the team and for him. And he's going into his 5th year, so all told, I think he was on his base salary going into this season was only $2 million. So essentially, it's a 5-year, $70 million deal, which makes it even more of a bargain for a guy that's young and ascending and still already producing at the level he is.
Gotcha, Willie Jack, and I think it's a good move for you guys too, because essentially what it does is just solidify your defense, man. We know T.J. Watt, we know Hayward. You solidify Alex Smith. The upfront portion of your defense is the most important part, and by keeping him there, that keeps that Robin on the other side of that Batman, and keeps y'all, with at least with a solid base when it comes to your defense. Let's keep it moving, Willie Jack.
Sure.
We had some news, man, from a former star wide receiver. Maybe he's still considered a star wide receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins, man. He's finally found a home over in Tennessee, okay? The former Texans and Cardinal wide receiver signs a 2-year deal with the Titans worth $26 million. The deal could go up to $32 million with incentives. So really just depends on what happens with the season, accomplishments and so on and so forth. And it was only a matter of time, Willie Jack. It was only a matter of time before DeAndre Hopkins found him a job. He's one of those players where, of course he's getting a little bit older, but at the same time, he was productive when he was on the field this past year. And nobody's just going to let that sit out there, especially at the wide receiver position. Now, running backs, with the way everything is going right now, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? And I don't imagine some of these other guys to see it either, but with the way running backs are getting treated right now, we'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to start that one. But the question was with who? The Patriots were looking at him. The Titans were looking at him. People were still talking about the possibility of him going to the Jets or some other teams. But he ended up with the Titans. How do you feel about this move, Willie Jack? You think it's a good fit for DeAndre Hopkins? What's your thoughts on it?
No, I really like this move. And honestly, I like the contract on both sides as well. And so 13 base with incentives that can get it up to 16 in base per year. And so that number, I think that's right around that magic 15 number that we saw from Odell Beckham in Baltimore and from Michael Thomas when he restructured with New Orleans as well. So it's right there in line with those two deals, which are for like stars that are not necessarily over the hill, but they're not at the forefront of the league. So Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas, and DeAndre Hopkins were all at one point considered top 3, top 4 guys in the league across the league at the position. And so now they're all, well, especially in Odell and DeAndre Hopkins example, they've touched 30. They're not past it yet, but what I think Hop is 31. I think Odell is 30, just a year behind him, and Michael Thomas, he's somewhere in that mix. He may be the youngest of the bunch. So they're still young enough to still be very active and very viable at the position. But like I said, they're no longer the guys in conversation with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So I think that number makes sense. The team definitely has a hole there at the position, and they've had it for a little while. So even when they had A.J. Brown and didn't use him to his full ability, they were still searching for another quality guy. At that time, you tried Julio, or you bring in Julio. Julio, I don't know if he touches the field more than 3 games. And then you get rid of A.J. Brown, you draft Treylon Burks, and you still have a massive hole in position. Robert Woods, who they brought in last year as well, didn't make an impact at all. And so now they're hoping that they bring in Hop. It's good money. It's very good money. And the incentives are very reachable from what I've saw. Like there's $1 million once he gets, or there's 3 incentives that add up to $3 million a piece. And I think the final number on all 3 of those are like 90 catches, like 1,200 yards, and like 10 or 12 touchdowns. And if he hits all 3 of those, it's an extra $3 million. And honestly, those numbers are all very attainable if Hop is playing at the level that we've grown accustomed to see him playing at. Just like my dog Chop said, Hop was still playing really good ball. And so he had the suspension. That team's a mess. And then I think he played 6-7 games, whatever the case. But I think he came out and said it himself when he left. He was on track for like 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns or something like that before he left. Like if you bring those numbers out, so still extremely productive. And honestly, like I said, man, I think it makes sense for the Titans as well. They've got to get some type of weapon in there to balance out the attack of just Derrick Henry. Man, it can't be Derrick Henry left, right, and center, and then hope Ryan Tannehill hits three key passes to keep those drives going. You know what I mean? So they've got to get something to balance that team out. And I think it's a perfect situation for Hop to come in there, be the unquestionable number one, and still show that he still is one of those true number one guys who's still somebody to be respected at the top of the league.
Gotcha. And a lot of people don't seem to be too happy about this move. I'm one of the people that feel like you, Willie Jack. I like the move specifically because I don't think Tennessee is as bad as people think they are. I think they're solid. They have a solid foundation, have great coaching. They have some solid pieces to where I feel like the Jaguars are going to have to continue to make that leap, continue to move forward in terms of winning this, taking really full control of this division. This past year, everybody remember it was the last game of the season where they had to face off against the Tennessee Titans for the winner of this division. So it came down to that. With as bad as we thought the Titans were going to be going into that year. So with them adding DeAndre Hopkins, I think that adds a security blanket for Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill is still there. Tannehill is not a terrible quarterback, and I still think they still have Derrick Henry there. So they have some pieces there. I do like the entire foundation of this move. And this particular team for DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm anxious to see what they're going to look like, what it's going to look like with him over in Tennessee. So we'll see. On to some more news, Willie Jack. Now, this has been one of the bigger things or bigger topics going on the last few days, especially after Monday when the deadline passed in terms of signing these running backs to deals, and the names, of course, everybody probably seen them already: Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard as well. Now, the deadline passed, no deal was made, and it looks like that Saquon may be taking it a step further, as well as Josh Jacobs. I think Tony Pollard is the only one of these guys who have signed the tender and plan on being at camp, plan on being there with his team, and plan on playing on his franchise tag. So, what are your overall thoughts on this, Willie Jack, in terms of these running backs not getting deals or not landing long-term deals with their teams, man?
Honestly, man, it's one of those situations where the system around pay for running backs is just broken, honestly. And so the way the current system and the current way it is, the formula to maximize the value at the position. So we're just talking dollars and cents. Then the way to maximize the value for a running back is if you can get one in the first round and you don't mind getting one, go ahead and get him, because then even though he'll come in, Bijan Robinson is a top 5 paid running back right now in the league. But what's different about the running back than probably any other position is, and I've said this before, is that running backs for the most part come ready made out the box. Like Adrian Peterson was never more explosive in the league than his very first carry. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how like running back, the wear and tear on your body, you come in at such a prime and at such a peak that every hit, it's only downhill. So every hit, you're only putting miles, you're only putting hits on your body. And so you're only wearing yourself down. And so those first 4 or 5 years of a back's career are oftentimes the best and most productive of a back's career. Eric Dickerson was his most dominant his first 2 years in the league. If we're just looking at, we just look at his raw stats. Adrian Peterson was pretty similar in that as well. And so I think it was, because he tore every ligament in his leg and then came back after 7 months and ran for 2,000 yards. But but he was, he don't get me started on Adrian Peterson. He was a little different. But realistically though, as far as when we look at Zeke Elliott is a wonderful example of that in our modern day as well. His first 2 years in the league, he was the most valuable player on that team. He still should have been Offensive Rookie of the Year ahead of Dak Prescott for what he did, being the true guiding force and driving force behind that young Cowboys team. But he was his most dangerous, his most explosive, his most electric in his first 2-3 years. And then he makes the play to go ahead and get himself paid. And honestly, him and Jerry had a stare down, and Jerry folded. Not only did Jerry folded to the tune of $90 million. And so, and quite quickly after that, honestly, Ezekiel Elliott was just never the same back that he was from those first 3 years. And so there's been a couple big swings and misses, I guess, that the owners can point to and Ezekiel Elliott. Ty Gurley, he's another guy as well. Ty Gurley had a rap on him about the issues with his knees, that his knees were ticking time bombs coming into the league. And I guess fortunately and unfortunately enough for him, he was able to get into the league, be successful enough to get himself paid. But then, like I said, his those knees wore out, and so he disappeared just as soon as he had really kind of settled into being a guy at the top of the position. Le'Veon Bell and his holdout as well, and then the way he kind of just quickly just flamed out. On a terrible Jets team. And so there's numerous examples of, I guess, of this happening. And so over the grand course of this happening, like I said, I mean, it's really that combined with the emergence of later round unknown undrafted guys. You've got guys like Tyler Algier who can give you almost 1,200 yards as either a seventh round or an undrafted rookie from who knows what university college of Minnesota, you know what I'm saying? From nowhere, Isaiah Pacheco could come in and take the job of a first round D1 LSU national championship running back Clyde Ayers-Hilaire and outperform and outpace him. But he's another guy, seventh round or undrafted from who knows where you played you. You know what I'm saying? And so when with such a heavy influx on, I guess, on available talent at the position, the position is overly saturated, and so it's really driven down their cost market. And honestly, man, I really don't know what they can really do about it. And that's what I guess I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on, like, what's a way to fix it. Because realistically, I think it can be, I think more or less it can be more or less fixed at the top. A guy like Saquon he can afford to put his foot down to get himself paid. And I think he's probably the one that will get paid when it's all said and done. But for a lot of these guys, man, like a guy like Josh Jacobs, a guy like even like I said, we'll see with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's situation is a little different to me, but for a lot of these guys who don't necessarily have that national, they're not a national name. They don't have that national cachet. They're not their own brand, so to say. You know what I'm saying? Saquon Barkley does advertises with Visa, you know what I'm saying, with Visa credit card. You know what I mean? Like he's a national brand and a national name. So I think he'll get something worked out for himself. But for the average back, man, like I said, especially a guy like Josh Jacobs, who's not a national name, not necessarily a national brand, but all he does is lead league in rushing. It just doesn't. He doesn't have the same weight behind him to maybe get something done. So I'm curious. Yeah, what are you thinking about, man?
So I definitely think the system is broken for sure. I don't think there's that much of a heavy influx of just talent or guys that can just get out there and just get it done. The way you mentioned it, yeah, I think if you put a guy behind a good offensive line, he's gonna be able to run. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna be able to do that. But there's only a certain amount of special guys. It's guys that can only do certain things. You know what I mean? I don't think there is as many guys as we put it out there to be. Um, one, I do think the running back position is a position where, and I don't want to say this lightly. I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to come at running backs when I say that. But I think it's one of the positions where you don't have to think as much. You pretty much just using your athletic ability and reading the house. You get the ball in your hand and you just go be athletic. Find a hole, hit it, run. You know what I mean? Break tackles. You know what I'm saying? It's not a job where it's like, okay, I got to read this coverage and then I got to, based off where this guy goes, I have to go here or I have to come back across. Like, it's not that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So you're just using strictly like more of your athletic ability. But here's my thing. And this is why I say it's broken at. Okay. And I was talking a lot about this. I was making posts, hashtag pay the backs. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to start that movement. Hashtag pay the backs because I think all of these guys should be paid. Tony Pollard's situation is a little different, but in terms of Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, I feel like both of them should have been paid. Josh Jacobs wouldn't even offer the contract in this situation, which I think is ridiculous. You didn't even try to bring him to the table to try to solidify him for a long-term deal. And I think they're disrespecting what these guys are fully capable of. You know what I mean? I watched Odell Beckham not play a full or complete season or have a full good season since 2016, and he come fresh off of an ACL injury over the age of 30, get a $15 million contract fully guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? I sit and watch Michael Gallup, guys like Corey Davis is still on a $10 million a year contract. And it's a couple other guys that are making 10 million plus a year that are fighting for rosters. Some fighting for roster spots, some fighting for a third wide receiver position on their team, making over $10 million a year. You mean to tell me that Austin Eckler, 38 touchdowns in 2 seasons, is only worth $6 million a year? Like, there's no way anybody can make that make sense to me. You know what I mean? And regardless of the argument that they come up with, it will never make sense to me. Even going back to the Deshaun Watson, I heard an argument today where, well, Saquon Barkley, his thing doesn't amount to wins. Now, I know this is going to kind of go a little bit against what we kind of talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about Deshaun Watson. And I'm like, okay, I watched Deshaun Watson in last season that, he put up some really good numbers. What, he had 4 wins that year, Willie Jack. I think that's what we talked about. Have
Yes,
4 wins
man.
that season, miss a couple seasons, and come back and get a $250 million fully guaranteed contract. The system is for sure broken. I'm not comparing running backs to quarterbacks.
Well, yeah,
But
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the
no,
the the Odell comparison I think is maybe one thing, but I don't think you can compare the quarterback
no,
situation.
no, no, no. The reason I'm saying it is because somebody can go and do this ridiculous type of deal for a guy that hasn't played over a season and didn't show that about the minutes. I'm talking about the specific argument that was used against a guy like Saquon Barkley. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense at all, especially when you look at the numbers across the league, and then people posting these things about now you got, and this is what it does. Now you got people questioning, are kickers more valuable than running backs?
No,
We
that
shouldn't
was
even
the
be
one.
having that conversation at all. That's not even a conversation. You know what I mean? When you're talking about the role of a running back, what they do for the entire game versus, a kicker's job. Like that, nah. So
No, that was a very surprising number that I seen, and honestly, and I don't know like the full context of the numbers or how they came up with it, but yeah, like the average kicker salary is I think it was like, let's say like 2.2 million and change, whereas the average running back salary was like 1.8, which was just surprising to hear, man. But I'm curious to know the context of that, but that is still a very startling number to even see, bro. Like, it's more valuable to be a specialist as a kicker, and it's hard to not take shots or poke holes or even downgrade and talk about the kickers in this circumstance. But at the same time, man, it's just in the hierarchy of the player position in the locker room. Most locker rooms, player for player, they'll rank their kickers ahead of only their punter as far as positional importance, and that's just across any locker room I've been in. And it's not to necessarily be disrespectful or demean the kickers or those specialists, because they have a valuable part of the game as well. But still, man, that's a tough number to look at if the average kicker is paid, like I said, man, a little over $500,000 more than the average running back.
the
That's a
lead, the lead,
wild.
the lead leading rusher, man, you can't even offer him a contract. Man, that's ridiculous. That's crazy to me, man. It just don't make no sense, and I feel like something needs to be done. They need to fix it. I don't. But this is also one of those situations where you have to be very strategic in the what moves you plan on making to kind of rectify this situation, because you don't want to cause more damage. You know what I'm saying, with these. You know what I mean. So it's a tough one, Willie Jack. I ain't gonna lie, but these running backs are devalued, man, and it's ridiculous, man. They should be paid more for
Yeah,
sure.
and one of the things about it too, like, it's the current contract structure for like rookie running backs, because like I said, their prime years are day one that they enter the league, and then it used to be 30. They used to give them these guys until 30, 31 before really just kind of like shelving them, and now we're seeing it it moved closer to like 27, 28. You're an older back. Well, Dalvin Cook just got cut. He's still an arguably a top five guy at the position. He's 26 years old. He's 26 years old. He just got cut. Still in his very athletic prime, even still. And like I said, and he's 26. And so if now 26 is the line to where we'll go ahead and get rid of a guy, because if we can go find a guy it's that much easier to find or replace that a guy at that position is like I said, I don't know necessarily what you're gonna do about it, unless they have like special contract perimeters for running backs where running backs are eligible for re-signs that at the end of 2 years if you cross a certain production threshold, or in that third year, as opposed to maybe being strung out 4 or 5 before you even have a chance to hit the market. But then at that time the market views you as past it or over the hill. And so, man, it's a rough road to go down, man. It's a rough road to go down for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And last but not least in the news, Willie Jack, before we get on about it here, man. Not get on about it here like
I
leaving,
got
but
you. Yeah.
in terms to get about it, the news. Zach Martin, man, offensive guard for the Dallas Cowboys, is threatening a holdout, man. He's threatening a holdout, and he is hoping to get paid a little bit more than what he's getting paid as of right now. Willie Jack, what's your take on this one, man, for the Dallas, man? Or is Dallas in trouble? What's going
No,
on?
and honestly, man, when I saw this, I mean, because I hadn't heard, or I guess it's all coming out now. But apparently, man, he's definitely feeling undervalued. And then we were kind of pulling up the numbers here when we were looking. But the article that I saw, I want to say is on Bleacher Report. I guess Zach Martin is his beef is that he's he's going to make this year $7 million, I guess, less than the top guards being paid at the position. And then I mean, I don't even think it's any type of spoiler alert, but if you ask anyone familiar with this league or invested in the offensive line, they'll tell you, I don't know how many names you get before Zach Martin when you're talking about best guards in the game. And so that's going to be an awful short list in front of him, if anybody's in front of him. But to be as highly regarded to be as highly regarded at the position as he is, and then like I said, man, he's looking at everybody's paychecks and figuring out like, well, hold on, wait a minute now. You mean to tell me that Buddy over there, without 5 All Pros, without 6 Pro Bowls, without being on the All Decade team already, that guy makes $7 million more than me? Hold on, who I need to talk to? Who I need to go see about this? And so I can understand that completely. If you're Dallas, I think Dallas gets something done with this, because I think he's definitely an integral part of that offense. Dallas likes to build from that offensive line out, and so they've prioritized having a strong offensive line. Man, this goes back to their heyday in the '90s when they were winning Super Bowls. And like I said, when they were truly living up to the moniker, man, America's team. So they've always put a heavy emphasis on the offensive line, even dating back to then. And like I said, man, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, in his heyday, they were the new leaders of this new version of that line. And like I said, he's the last one standing, the last one left, and he's still a guy who's playing at the top of the position. So I imagine they get something done for him.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I feel the same way with each other. You got to get something done. You got to protect your offensive line, which they got to protect. That's Dak Prescott. They just invested in him. So you got to protect your investments, and one of the ways they can do that is by solidifying your top guard, man, your top offensive lineman on this team. So I expect them to do so. But I also feel like it's part of the game, man. Your time came, and you got paid when your time came. But when you're the next man up, and these are other guys that are pretty good guys like Quentin Nelson, you know what I'm saying, and Joe Batonio and all those different guys. These are other guys that their time was up. So yeah, now you're looking back on it and say, yeah, it's time for you to get paid again. You want to stay on top, but
Oh no, it's time. Hey, it's time to re-up though, man. It's time to re-up. Yes, yesterday's price ain't today's price. You know what I mean?
I understand, man. I understand. But your time is gonna come. Your time is gonna come. He said he just wanted to come now, though. So I ain't mad at him. I don't want you to get twisted, Willie Jack. I ain't mad at him, but his time, he got paid when his time was there, though. Don't get it twisted.
Oh no,
he
no,
got
no,
paid
no,
when his
no,
time
yeah.
was there.
Hey, no, and that makes sense too. But you know what I'm saying? If I was making $30 an hour 6 years ago, and I was at the top of the market, and now I'm still giving target market performance, but now the market is paying $50 an hour. Hey man, I need to talk to somebody about $50 an hour now.
Well, first off, you shouldn't have signed a 6-year deal for that. It should have been 3. It should have been 3.
No, man, the years on those contracts only matter when it's the player. Yeah, that you sound like an owner. You sound like an owner right then. That 6 years only matter.
I'm saying you shouldn't have waited 6 years. Is what I'm saying. You should have asked me for that 3 years ago.
3 years ago, man, the money was probably good. Yeah, but yeah,
okay.
Or like I said, yeah, because it was probably solid. I mean, he wasn't the guy on top, but it's one thing, you start going down the list. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's cool. It's a couple guys' turn to get paid. I'm going down. He probably was like 2 years ago. He's like went down to like number 2 or 3. Then after that, he probably went down to like number 4 or 5. Now he's probably looking like, man, wait, I'm number 12. Hell no. Like I need to talk to somebody.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you, Willie Jack. I feel you on that one, man. But that's our news for today, man. It's time to jump into the offensive alignment. But before we do that, Willie Jack, do a film fam check in with me. Who all in the building, man? Who stepped in here? Who's saying what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Who are here with us, Willie Jack? Who done checked in with us?
Oh yeah, man. We got a few of y'all in here, man. All y'all ain't hit the chat though, man. So tap in that chat, man. Let me know what's going on so I can shout you out, man. But we got the fan building in the building, man. Mom Deuce is in the building. We appreciate you, mom. We got wifey in the building, sis in here. What's going on? But yeah, man. Hey, the rest of y'all tap in that chat, man, so I can shout y'all out and see what's going on.
Absolutely, absolutely, Willie Jack. Well, hey, without further ado, man, it's time to jump in them trenches, man. It's time to talk about those offensive linemen. It's perfect timing because we in our news segment talking about Zach Martin. We're not gonna start with the guards, but we're gonna start with the centers, man. We're gonna start with the guys directly in the middle. You know what I mean? The second quarterbacks of offenses, man. The guys that are calling those offensive line calls. You know what I'm saying? Who's in there with those big nasty defensive tackles and nose tackles, man, and trying to protect their everything from the middle. You know what I'm saying? On out. So we're gonna jump into these centers first and foremost, man, and then we're gonna move to guard, and then we're gonna go to tackle. You know what I'm saying, to finish it on out, man. So let's go ahead and jump into the guards, man, and we're gonna do the top five. Willie Jack, start me off, man. Who is your number 5 guard? I mean, I'm sorry, center going into the 2023 season, man.
Number 5 center for me, man. I'm gonna go Ethan Posick, the center from Cleveland. And so, in putting together this list, man, Cleveland, Cleveland still, and Cleveland still probably has, I think, one of the better offensive lines in the league for sure. Especially if you're looking at those the three guys in the middle, the interior. They're stronger there, just as strong from guard to guard as probably anybody in the league. Ethan Posick was a guy. He came. Oh gosh, I want to say he came over from Seattle, but his game really took another step forward this last year. It helps when you're playing in between two of the better guys at either side at guard, and we'll get to those guys. But yeah, him now playing between Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, he's definitely man made a home for himself right there in the middle of that Cleveland offensive line. One of the forefronts as far as just the most dominant run games in the league, blocking for a guy like Nick Chubb. And so, like I say, if you give Nick Chubb 2 feet, man, he'll take 8. You know what I mean? You give him 2 yards, he'll take 20. And so it probably helps as well when you're blocking for a guy as good as he is. But yeah, all told, man, I think Ethan Posick has made himself a home there in Cleveland, man, and top 5 on my book going forward.
Okay, and I like that. I like that one, Willie Jack. I feel like he is one of the leaders of this offensive line group, and you always notice. And I was gonna get to this point a little bit later on, but I'm gonna go ahead and just tell y'all right now. You always notice a lot of times if you got a real solid interior portion of your offensive line, most of the time it makes for a good unit. Okay, if you got a few good guys in there that can hold it together, your unit usually can it comes together and it prevents, of course, their pocket from collapsing in the middle. You know what I'm saying? And what they always just say to Tom Brady, man, hey man, just you gotta rush him up the middle, gotta rush him in his face. You know what I'm saying? So having guys like that. My number 5 guy is a guy. Speaking of Tom Brady, I'm gonna go back over to New England, man. New England. David Andrews, man, center for the New England Patriots, man. So one thing about David Andrews, man, and you can count on, is and actually one thing you can count on when it comes to the Patriots, you can count on them having good offensive and defensive linemen, man. They always find a way to get those guys in the trenches that are solid. You know what I'm saying? And it goes on and on and on, year after year after year. It's almost like a draft clinic. If you want to look for some good offensive and defensive linemen, man, go see what the Patriots are doing, and they'll show you exactly what to do to find some. Okay. But David Andrews actually was an undrafted free agent. He came out of Georgia, and he turned into a star. You know what I'm saying? He was been very reliable, playing over 700 snaps in 7 of his 8 seasons. Man, that's a ton of snaps. And he's not the most athletic. He's not the biggest. He's not the strongest. But the one thing you can count on is him to do his job. You know what I'm saying? And you hear that mantra or that saying all the time when it comes from the New England Patriots is do your job. And David Andrews, he may be the pitcher next to that definition in their word, or as far as that saying, I'm sorry, I can't even talk, is when they say do your job, you may see David Andrews' face next to him when it comes to that. So I got David Andrews as my number 5 spot when it comes to the centers in the NFL, which Okay, my fault. My fault. You got it.
I'm not going to do your thing.
Okay. Which brings me to my number four. My number four center going into the 2023 season. I'm gonna go with Corey Linsley, man. Okay, and you're gonna notice it's a trend with me, Willie Jack. In order for my dog Jay Herb to get this MVP, you know what I'm saying? Players got to play around him, man. Players got to play around him, and one of the more important pieces will be Corey Linsley, along with another offensive lineman we're gonna talk about a little bit later. I'm pretty sure Willie Jack he'll love that one anyway. But Corey Linsley, man, he spent a lot of his time over in Green Bay as a Packer, came over to the Chargers, and he instantly upgraded this offensive line and pretty much solidified this unit with his experience, with his wisdom, you know, and with his overall leadership. Okay. He didn't give up a sack all last year, and just a few pressures all year. And if you can do that with this pass happy team, this is a passing team that only rushed the ball with their starting running back and Austin Eckler 204 times. You know what I mean? So this is a team that passes a lot. And as much as they pass to not give up a sack that entire season, that is very, very impressive. It shows how good he is, how technically sound he is. And if you watch him on a down-by-down basis, you know what I'm saying, you notice he's not out of position at all, or not a lot, if not at all. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you can go a full season as a guy like Corey Linsley and not give up a sack the entire season because you're technically sound. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. And like I said, he came to this offensive line and solidified that unit. And you have to have a guy like him in front of Justin Herbert if you want to get the best out of him. So I got Corey Linsley as my number 4 spot.
You know, now coincidentally, I also got Corey Linsley at my number 4 spot.
Okay.
And the thing about him is, and I'm glad you brought up the rushing stats as well, because like I said, they only have just over 200 rushing attempts to the lead back and Austin Eckler. And honestly, man, Corey Linsley is pretty mediocre, I guess, to put it mildly. I guess he's pretty mediocre in the run game. But the thing that still makes him so valuable is he is one of the better pass protecting centers in this league, and in a league that is a passing league, a league that wants to pass the ball. And so, honestly, man, to be as dominant, I guess, as he is in the passing aspect of his blocking, I guess it helps to kind of balance or give him a little less flack on the run game side because he's so dominant or so quality at the pass protection part. And like you said, man, we've got a young guy named Justin Herbert, and you want him to throw the ball 40 times a game anyway. We'll skew towards pass protection if we got to, man. And so, but just like you said, man, he's been pretty consistent for the last few years there now, especially like I said, pass protecting and keeping Justin Herbert clean up the middle for the most part. And like I said, man, if his last year is any tell of where he's at now, man, he's still playing just as good or at the top of his position, man, in regards to pass protection, and I don't see any reason why I should slow down either.
Absolutely. So we are at the same spot with that one.
Yeah.
Will Jack, come on back with your number 3, man. Who's your number 3?
My number 3, man, is gonna be big bad Frank Ragnow, man. Frank Ragnow, the center for the Detroit Lions. I like his name. Like, he sounds like an offensive lineman in my mind. You know what I mean? Frank Ragnow. You know what I'm saying? Ready to ragdoll somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just in my mind, and I can't tell you what he looks like. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but in my mind, he's got a big burly ass, like beard, chops. You know what I'm saying? Sideburns, the whole nine. Just a big burly, scruffy ass dude. You know what I mean? And so, he's a guy. He's a little more. He's a lot more balanced in my opinion. He's definitely a fantastic run blocker. For sure, definitely above average in the pass protection game as well. And so I think he's a guy that's a little more balanced for me, which is preferred, and like I said, a little more bang for my buck on both sides of the line, and playing damn good ball in Detroit, man. Detroit's another one. Detroit's another one of those lines, man. That like I said, they're quietly, man. They're one of the better units as well. You know, there's a couple other guys that are eligible to make one of these lists on that line as well. But Frank Ragnow, for my money, man. The number 3 guy, and right there firmly a top 5 guy position for me.
Gotcha. All right, Willie Jack, and I got him on my list coming up pretty soon. But before I get to him, I'm going over to Philadelphia, man. And I got Jason Bad Boy Kelsey as
Bad
my number
boy.
3 center. I don't know. I just came. It just sounded right, man. Jason Bad Boy Kelsey coming up as my number 3 center on my list, man.
Hey, you got the wrong Kelsey, Ray. Hey, he's the clean cut Kelsey. You know what I'm saying? The bad boy, the other one, man.
Yeah, you might be right with that one, Willie Jack. You might be right. But here's the thing about Travis Kelsey, right? I mean, not Travis Kelsey. Jason, you got me saying Travis now.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Jason Kelsey, okay? First and foremost, one of the most consistent centers in the NFL for over a decade now. You know what I'm saying? And he's one of the older guys actually contemplating retiring after the loss in the Super Bowl to his younger brother and Travis Kelsey. Decided he wanted to come back another year, but that didn't uh, push me away from putting him at this number 3 spot. Jason Kelsey has, like I said, been one of the more consistent pieces. You know, he still is, he still is one of the more athletic centers in the league. Like, it's not just about him and his run blocking at the point of attack. It's him moving downfield. Like the way he moves, how athletic he is, how fast he is. If you see him on the field and you didn't know who he was, you just see the helmet and the way he's moving on field, you would think he's 23, 24. You know what I'm saying? You see him on plays running out in front of Miles Sanders 30 yards down the field, making blocks on safeties, creating angles for his running back behind him. And it was even a couple plays where I watched where it was like, Miles, what you doing, man? I had him sealed. You supposed to run on butt side. That's what they always teach you. I've been learning that since,
Pee Wee ball.
Pee Wee football. You attack butt side. I had a guy sealed. That's the type of energy he brings. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of y'all probably remember the dance he did like an end zone next to I forgot who it was. You know what I'm saying? In the end zone. Dance with his team, but that's the type of valuable player that he is just to your organization in general. He's always going to be fun. He's going to be upbeat, but he's going to be moving. He's going to be all over the field. And if you're going to try to tackle somebody or in a run game, best believe you're going to have to find a way to run through Kelsey first. And it's going to be a long day if you got to see him down in and down out. So, man, Jason Kelsey is my number three center going into this 2023 season.
Gotcha. And you know what? I've got him as my number 2, so I'll just go ahead and critique him as well. But no, I agree with everything you said about him, man. So he's my number 2 guy. And just like you said, man, talk about the model of consistency for the position for a decade now, a decade and change. He's been the guy to really set the tone and set the tempo at the position. Just like you said, man, excellent locker room guy. I tap into him and Travis's podcast. They do the two brothers, they do a podcast as well, and it's always just a good time, man, just seeing them, just how they interact with each other. And then Jason, you could tell he's got that kind of a little more reserved, like I liked in the episode that Jalen Hurts came on their podcast as well, and it almost felt like he's almost a big brother for Jalen Hurts, just as he was a big brother for Travis as well. And so just like kind of welcoming demeanor, man. And just like you said as well, a guy that definitely looks like he can keep it light. Seeing him do the little end zone dance. He's dressed up in some costumes, and he's done some other wild, funny stuff, man, that really kind of just embody the city and that team. And so just like you were saying, man, I still got him in number 2. I mean, like I said, only thing changed about Jason Kelsey is he getting older. But when he's on the field, man, he's still just as dominant as he's ever been for the most part. But no, just like you said, man, even before that Super Bowl year, they said he was been contemplating retirement before that year. And Jalen Hurts had a lot to tell him, like, man, give it a shot. They make a Super Bowl run in a game they could have won. And so they had, man, probably one more time around the sun, man, to see if he can bring it home. But no, definitely, like I said, man, when it's all said and done, man, he's probably going to be a gold jacket guy. Definitely, like I said, a member of the All-Decades team. And man, like I said, if he's healthy and he's playing this year, he's going to be a guy that's going to be right there in line for another All-Pro. At the end of the year, or right there in consideration for sure.
Absolutely. I'm with you there, Willie Jack. Now that moves me to my number 2, which I think was your number 3.
Okay,
was Frank Ragnow, man. I got Frank there at my number 2 spot, man. So he actually is one of my favorite players, our favorite centers in the NFL. Actually, maybe my favorite, man. When I watch him, he's not your traditional center. So you see guys like Jason Kelsey. Jason Kelsey probably stands maybe 6'1", 6'2", short. And a lot of centers, they look short and stubby. You know what I'm saying? This guy, Frank, is about 6'5", 315. You know what I'm saying? A guy that actually played guard for some time, but then actually got moved over to the center position, so over in Detroit. And since then, man, he's been lights out. Okay, been lights out. Now this past year he suffered a toe injury, so he didn't get a chance to play as much. But this year I expect him to come back fully healthy and be that guy that um I expect him to be and be the guy that he showed potential to be. Okay, which will also continue to help out this this quarterback behind him who last year, like I said, Jared Goff, I think he played his best season ever. You know what I mean? And the one thing you absolutely need is a guy like Frank in the offensive line unit to hold up. And this past year, I feel like this offensive line unit started to get a lot of that success or a lot of that notoriety because of what they were doing to help out this offense, which is putting up 30 a game. Woody Jack told you all year, man. It's like, hey, if you can
Hey,
count on one thing, you got to know Detroit and Jared Goff putting up 30.
hey, Jared Goff putting up 30, man. Believe
And
that.
lot of that, a lot of that goes to the offensive line unit, that was there. They protected Goff. Goff has never been a guy that was good with mobility. So for him to sit back there, had a time he has, pick apart defenses, his offensive line has to be great, and a lot of that has to do with his big center man and Frank Ragnar. So I expect him to go into this 2023 season playing some great ball, man. So Frank is my number 2 center,
Gotcha.
and that leads me to my number 1, man. My number 1, and I couldn't leave this guy in a position where I didn't recognize what he did in the Super Bowl, man, which kind of tips my answer. But my number 1 guy is Creed Humphrey, man. Creed Humphrey is going to be my number 1 center going into the league. Okay, and here's my reason why. Okay, Creed Humphrey, first and foremost, he's only 24 years old, man.
Yeah.
He's 24 years old and emerged last year as one of the top centers in this league. And I think he's only going to get better. I think he was just scratching the surface of his greatness and the potential career that he can have. Like we just got done talking about how dominant Jason Kelsey has been for so many years. I expect Creed Humphrey to be more of the same. I expect you know how they talk about Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday. There's going to be a Patrick Mahomes and Creed Humphrey when it's all said and done. Those two are going to be that match. I think they're going to try to keep those guys together as long as possible and create a Hall of Fame duo when it comes to center and quarterback. Okay, that's what I think we're going to see. And like I said, he's just scratching the surface. All right, to do what he did in that Super Bowl against the best defensive line in the NFL, the team that led the league in sacks. They didn't allow 1 sack at all. And to be battling Javon Hargrave, one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL, down in and down out, and hold them to nothing, man, just speaks volumes to me. And when you have that type of performance in the Super Bowl, that only builds confidence for the year to come. You know, so for going forward, it's like, oh man, I did this on the biggest stage. There's no other stage I need to do this on. I did this on the largest stage. So, hey man, bring it on. Whatever y'all got for me, bring it on. So that's why I got Creed Humphrey as my number 1 center on this list, man. I think he has, man, the sky's the limit for this guy, man. He has a Hall of Fame career waiting for him as long as he continues his play.
No, and he's my top guy at the position going forward as well. And so even this year, I think if you check the PFF grades, I think he barely edged out Jason Kelsey. Like he had like his grade was like zero point 0.4 higher than Kelsey's was. Now, mind you, Kelsey's on year 12 and this guy's on year 2 or 3. And so,
Absolutely.
which also speaks to the greatness that is Jason Kelsey, man. But at the same time, man, it's a young man's game, and Creed is definitely the guy who looks to have been in position and looks to be the guy who's going to take and carry that torch going forward for the centers, from a guy like Jason Kelsey. And I really like what you did there, man, when you talk about a legendary combo, man. So we've got Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday, and then it really, like, on the spot, it made me start thinking, man, like, are there any other, like, known or established guard center tandems that people like think about or remember or what comes to mind? And honestly, man, I can't really think of guys, man. Like even Tom Brady, all those years in New England, like I remember the names of some of those guys, but I'm not sure Logan Mankins is the guy I always think of with like that old offensive line, but I think he was a guard. So I can't remember Tom's center, you know what I mean? But I definitely know Jeff Saturday and Peyton, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so yeah, maybe Creed Humphrey and Patty can maybe replicate like the dynamicism of that duo, man, or just kind of to see you know how they were, like I said, together for a decade or more, man, with all the success they had together, and maybe Kansas City has that same thing going with Creed Humphrey and Patrick Mahomes. So, I agree completely, man. Going forward, man, this is a guy hit the league running, and like I said, year one was right sitting there knocking on the door of the top position as a top guy, and now in year two, and going forward is probably taking over that number one spot. And like I said, man, as long as he's healthy, don't see a reason why he should, why we'd expect him to give it back up.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Willie Jack. Well, there goes our list of centers, man. There goes our list of center. Do you want to give a honorable mention really quick, or you have anybody else that
Uh,
was on the edge or on the brink of possibly making your list, man? Or did you
yeah,
was it solid for you? Was it real easy?
Yeah, no, I think those five guys for me were the five I went with. David Andrews was the guy from New England. He was the guy I did have at I guess my number six, and then I looked at Tyler Lindenbaum, the guy from the Ravens, and kind of evaluated whether or not he was ready to kind of make that jump. But I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's necessarily top five. But if this list went to 10, I think he'd have probably been the guy that snuck in toward the bottom half of my 10 for sure.
Gotcha, gotcha. So those two guys were well, of course, David Andrews because he was on my list. Lindenbaum, of course, is a guy I thought about. But my other guy I thought about was Ryan Jensen, man. Ryan Jensen was a very, very key piece to that Tampa Bay offensive line, and we saw how horrible they looked this past year. And if it was any break or if it was anything that caused or if he could have been a very, very big reason as to why the Tampa Bay offense didn't operate the way that they were supposed to because he was injured a lot of that season. Now he comes back fully healthy. I expect him to get back to form. And yeah, man, he could be, or I think in my mind, he's definitely a top 10 guy. So we'll see, what he really does now that he's fully healthy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, all right, Willie Jack, we just finished our list of centers, man. We still got the guards and we still got the tackles. But before we do any of that, man, we want to go and take a break really quick, man. We're going to give y'all a break. Listen to what my dog Willie Jack is about to tell y'all, okay? He's going to give y'all some very important news. I need y'all to follow and listen to exactly what he's saying. Follow the rules, man. We only got a few house rules. So listen to my guy, and we'll be right back at you, man.
Let's go. Today's episode of Let the Film Speak, hosted by the wonderfully handsome and intelligent brothers of Let the Film Speak. That's chopping your main man, Willie Jack. Yeah, feel me. Also brought to you by the Three Amigos. Y'all know them and you love them, man. That's the Three Amigos. That's like, that's share, that's subscribe. That's three the hard way. That's a three-piece spicy. You cannot go wrong. Now, I say the same thing every week, so y'all can say it at home with me. I know y'all ready for it. Here we go. It's Three Amigos, but it's four parts to this process, big dog. First, you just got tapped in. Like my dog said, man, come in, tap in. Just say what's up, man. Just holler. Hey, what's up, Three Amigos, man? Like, share, subscribe. Hey, Chop, man. Willie, man, what's going on, man? It's cool. I sit on the couch. For sure. Y'all got some cold to drink? Oh, man, my man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, man, I'm a Broncos fan. That's all you got to do. That's it. That's easy. And Chop, come in, sit down, get comfortable, get a cool adult beverage, and let us know who you ride with, big dog. Then tell a friend. Like, man, that's a nice feeling here, ain't it? Man, it's cool, man. My homeboy was out. He was down. Man, it's cool. I can tell a friend. Tell a friend, man. And you know what? Even better than that, you can tell your friend to tell a friend. Guess what? There's more. You can tell your friend to bring his partner to. Bring one more because we need four, man. Bring them up into the penthouse. Tapping with your dogs, man. Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. You know we don't wear no watches. We ain't got nowhere else to be but in here kicking football flavor with the fam. And now back to the regularly scheduled program. All right.
All right. We back in this thing, man. Back in this thing. We just told y'all, man, we're trying to jump into these guards. And of course, we got the tackles following that to wrap the show on up, man. So let's go ahead and jump into it, Willie Jack. You started off first with the centers. So I'm gonna start this one off first, man. I'm gonna jump into our tackles, man. I mean our guards. All right, I'm gonna jump into our guards. So the first guard I got on my list, man. And this might throw you for a loop here, Willie Jack, but the first guard I got on my list, man, is Quentin Nelson, man. Quentin Nelson. So here's the thing, man, with Quentin Nelson. All right. Quentin Nelson bursted onto the scene, and it felt like at his peak, he was the best, in the league. Okay. He was the best in the league. He came in, I'm talking about from pass blocking to run blocking to, whatever it took for that offensive line. And he got a lot of that recognition, of course, not only because of, just his play, but Jonathan Taylor came and ran for 1,800 yards, right behind him. He was a huge reason that Jonathan Taylor was able to come and have the success that he had just in his second year in the league. You know what I'm saying? And he came, or second or third year in the league, but he came and he showed that, hey man, I'm here. This is my unit. It's nobody that can do anything with me. I'm gonna move everybody around the way I need to move them around. Defensive tackles, where you in, no matter who you are. I'm that guy. He's athletic. He was moving pretty good, but he started to drop off just a little bit. He didn't have the same level of dominance since that particular year. Now maybe you can put that to like the lack of success of the team, or the people around him, but his play started to fall just a little bit. Now it didn't fall enough to where I took him outside of my top five. He's still one of the best in the league when it comes to his job, but I want to see him get back to where he was, and right now I got him at my number 5 spot, because I'm not sure. We're gonna see, but I'm not sure. But all in all, a great all around offensive guard, man. One of the best in the business. I got Quentin Nelson in my number 5 spot.
No, and I'm not gonna lie, man. I agree a lot that you just said. Quentin Nelson is also in my 5 spot as well, and so
Hold on, dog.
I promise you. And but
Hold on,
honestly, the
dog.
reasoning is, and honestly, man, he was in he almost didn't make the list. But honestly, I'm thinking about him coming in as the prototype that he was. Like I said, I think at the time, man, I called him he was a walking, rolling, running vending machine. You know what I mean? Like 6'5", 330 pounds. And
Rolling vending
that
machine.
boy was a vending machine downhill. Get in front of it if you want to. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what he was. And then, like I said, though, each of these last 2-3 years, he's gotten further and further away from that player that he was when he first entered the league. But now there was a little bit of injury there that he got a little banged up. Things just got wonky with that
Yeah,
organization anyway. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like with the failed experiment that was Matt Ryan. The coach is out. You bring in Jeff. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff going on there. Jonathan Taylor also gets injured and banged up, as well as you get some underperformers on the rest of that offensive line. And honestly, he also regressed as well. It looks like, but when he's healthy, when he's on, even in the few games or in some of the games he played last year where he shows flashes of still being that guy. And so he's a guy where I'm banking on, okay, he came in hot. We know what he could do. We know what level he can be at. It was a couple off years. I think now with this new Philadelphia scheme, this new rededication to the run game, and with the read option game, and the way that generally that scheme just generally tends to make it easier on everybody involved. And so I'm thinking now there's going to be a lot more of him coming off the ball, a lot more of him flying right downhill, either crashing down, blocking on a D lineman and completely washing them out, or maybe, man, getting to get back on the move, getting to that second level and put these second level defenders on highlights. Like I said, man, opening thing for JT and now Anthony Richardson. So I'm excited to see him going forward, like I said, especially in this new scheme, and what it could do to reinvigorate and rejuvenate the player that we saw him when he first hit the league. So that's why I still got him there at 5, man. Even though, if we're being honest, man, his last 2-3 years in the league haven't been great.
Gotcha. All right, well, Jack, come on with your number 4, man. Who's number 4?
Number 4 for me is gonna be, man. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Joe Tooney. Tooney, the guard from Kansas City. And so Joe Tooney, man, is a guy interesting enough. He was with Bill Belichick's Patriots for a while, or for, I think, when he first came in the league and hit the scene and made a name for himself, and became one of the top performers at the position there. He left in free agency, goes to Kansas City, cashes a massive bag. And honestly, man, another team, Kansas City is another one of these teams, man, that quiet as kept, man, from guard to guard. They're just as talented as just about anybody in this league, man. And so he's the guy, of course, that gets in his stance right next to Creed Humphrey. And between the two of them, man, as far as center and guard go, man, they're one of the stronger 1-2 punches across the league. And then the guy, honestly, there's a guy on the other side, Trey Smith. I don't know if he made your list, but if this list went to 10 for me, he'd have probably been on this list in that top 10. But another guy that's one of the best at the position. And just like Chop said, man, as important as it was to keep guys out of Tom Brady's face, Kansas City is following that same thing. They're super strong right there in the middle. both guards and their center, man, are some of the tops in the league, and really goes a long way. No better example of that than just like my dog Chop said, that Super Bowl, man. That Super Bowl against a team that threatened the all-time single season sack record as a team,
Yep.
7, 8, 9 deep on the defensive line, and all those guys get after the ball. I mean, everything was. It was definitely a heavyweight matchup, man. One of the better offensive lines against one of the better defensive lines, and what should have been a slugfest turned out to be a one-sided whooping. Kansas City
Yeah.
dominated the trenches in that game, and a guy like Joe Tooney, along with a guy like Creed Humphrey, we just talked about, they were very, very key parts to that. And so, definitely one of the premier guys at the position, especially as far as pass protection goes. And so, one of the premier pass protectors in this league. And like I said, man, for a passing team, for a passing league with a team that has one of the elite pass throwers in the game, man, that's where you're gonna want to weight your importance on what he can offer. And like I said, man, in pass protection, man, he's one of, if not the best, doing it at that guard position. So John Tootie for me at 4.
Gotcha. Which works well for me, Willie Jack, because also in my number 4, man, I got Joe Tony
Real.
as well, man. We rolling together on this one. That's what it seems like, Willie Jack. We rolling
Real.
together, man. And it's a lot of the things that you mentioned already in terms of what Joe Tooney brought to the table. Another one of those guys on the chief offensive line that had that phenomenal performance in the Super Bowl. Well, who can forget that? Honestly, you can't forget
Mhm.
a team that held the best defensive line in the league to 0 sacks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not too many pressures at that.
And it
They
wasn't even close though, Chop. Like, bro, like Patty was out there, man, running around. It could have been 7-on-7 preseason ball, man. Like it
hey,
wasn't even close.
all I can tell you is after that atrocious performance in the Super Bowl against the Bucks a few years ago, where Pat
Oh
Mahomes
man,
was
yeah.
ready for his life. Now, don't get me wrong, they had a few injuries as well, but still, I never seen a guy, even with injuries, be under that much pressure, especially in the Super Bowl. They went and got him from the Patriots, and he came and helped get that offensive line together. Okay, Joe Tony was a very, 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 or is a very, very valuable piece to this Chiefs offensive line, a very valuable piece to Patrick Mahomes' success, man. And they doing it the right way, man. The Chiefs are doing it the right way. It starts up front. We always say that, man, and it's a it turns into such a cliche because everybody says it,
Mhm.
but nobody really pays too much attention or gives as much credit to these guys up front as they probably should and as they probably deserve. But it truly does, man. It starts up front. We just saw Patrick Mahomes lose, one of his better, well, the best wide receiver he had on the team, and one of the best, a top tier receiver in this league,
Mhm.
and still go out there and win the Super Bowl and throw for over 40 some touchdowns and have that type of year. And a huge part of that was because he still had his offensive line intact. And the huge part of that was having Joe Tooney there to block for him, protect him, and make sure he stayed upright. Because just like you said, Willie Jack, one of the most consistent pass protectors in the NFL over the past few years. So,
Yeah.
yes, I agree with you, Willie Jack. Joe Tooney is my number 4 guard going into the 2023 season. All
No,
right.
and it's funny. One of the things you said as well is paying a guy like Joe Tooney was one of the reasons they couldn't pay a guy like Tyreek Hill. It
Yeah.
because you know what I mean, like paying and solidifying that offensive line up front. And it was funny, man, when you were saying how like it's cliche, but we all know the old cliche saying it all starts up front. But like everybody knows it, but not everybody wants to go that route because it's not the flashy route. You know what I mean? Like spending high draft capital on guys that don't score touchdowns is never going to be popular with your fan base. But then if we look at the teams that are consistently like at the top challenging for Super Bowls, like right now, Kansas City, Philadelphia, and then San Francisco, like 3 of the 4, and then the other one being Cincinnati. Cincinnati's the only oddball that's got the trash offense, the weak offensive line, and still finding a way to win around it to a certain extent. But those other 3 teams are some of the most stable and some of the most consistent across the offensive line as anybody in the league, and that's a key reason why those 3 teams kind of seem to always find themselves in the mix toward the end of the year, man. So it's some truth to that old saying for sure.
It's the proof is in the pudding, as they
Proof
say.
is in the pudding. There you
Proof
go.
is in they pudding, man. The proof is in the pudding.
Sure.
All right, well, let me go ahead and move on to my number 3, Willie Jack. My number 3, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go over to Cleveland, man. I'm gonna go over to Cleveland, man. I'm gonna talk about Joe Batonio. Okay, Joe Patonio. So here's the thing with me in terms of Joe. All right, first off, he's been an All Pro guard for the past 5 seasons straight. That lets you know the type of talent that we dealing with when we talking about Joe Patonio. Okay, and in fact, during his 9 year, he's been in the league 9 years, but his last 3 years have been the best years that he's had since he's been in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? So it's like wine because he's getting better with time. You know what I mean? That's essentially what Joe Batonio has been for this Cleveland offensive line, and he's been continuing to get better and better and better. And as of right now, I don't feel like there's any reason why he doesn't continue to get better. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch on, Willie Jack, is offensive line is one of those positions where I'm not gonna say regardless of age, but just because you're 34 or 35 doesn't mean you still can't get out there and get the job done. You know what I mean? At a high level and be at one of the tops. You know, we just talked about Jason Kelsey. You know what I'm saying? We named a few of these other guys on this list. A lot of these guys, when we talk about these offensive linemen, have been in the league for a long time. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
even when we start talking about tackles, man, it's some tackles on this list, man, that's been playing a while, but still playing the best ball in the league at older ages, and that's what Joe Batonio has been doing and showing. Like, hey, I've been in this league a long time. It took me a while to learn the game. There's so many different blocking combinations or rushers they can throw at you, but I'm learning it and I'm doing it at a high level. Okay, and that's part of the reason why I got him on my number 3 spot. And not to mention, man, he's opening up holes for what I feel like will be one of the best backs in the league. I may have changed my mind, Willie Jack. I might feel like, man, after this year, 2023, Nick Chubb might be holding that top spot, man. But hey, I know me and you both high on him. But Joe Batonio, man, Joe Batonio is my number 3 guy on this list, man, for 2023.
No, and I agree, man. Well, Joe's coming up on my list, so I can't get. I'll touch back on him here quickly, but I guess the wait, I'm on three, am I? I'm
Yeah,
on three,
you
right? Okay, make sure I wasn't tripping. Okay, so I'm gonna get to him shortly, but my number 3 guy is gonna be Chris Lindstrom from Atlanta, and so this
Mm,
was a guy who utterly and completely dominated in the run game this last year. And it's no secret, man. He, along with the rest of that Falcons offensive line in that scheme, they run for sure with Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee. But man, Chris Lindstrom really found and hit his stride and hit his groove in that. Excuse me, in that scheme, man. And I think he had the highest PFF grade last year for run blocking, like a grade above like 95, which is just super
yeah.
rare that anybody grades that highly just in eating one season, and he touched that mark. And so really came into his own. And he's a guy as well, just got paid, had a career year, gets paid, cashes a very big bag there. And now going forward, I can't wait to see now what Bijan Robinson does behind this offensive line, spearheaded by a guy like Chris Lindstrom, because I saw what Tyler Algier did last year. And so a little bitty no-name Tyler Algier, man, came in and gave us almost 1,200 yards. And that team, I think, as a whole, either led the league in rushing, or maybe they were a top 3 team in rushing with the Browns and the Titans, if I had to just spitball. But we're a very dominant team, total rushing team this last year. And now we add a back as dangerous as Bijan Robinson now behind that mix. And so I can only imagine just how much more dominant they may appear to be now that they've got a guy that threatens 80 yards every time he touches the ball. And so definitely anxious to see, like I say, if he continues to build on this momentum that he just created from this last year. And then going forward, man, he's probably going to be a guy that's going to creep higher and higher up these lists. As the 2 guys I got ahead of him, man, coming up here shortly, they are starting to get a little older. And so it's going to be clearing. This time next year, man, he's probably sitting in one of those 2 top seats. But for right now, this last hoorah from these OGs, I got ahead of him, man. I think I got him in my number 3 spot.
Okay. Gotcha, man. We'll get to him, man. Give me your number 2 then. Who's your number
So
2?
number two is where I got Joe Batonio, man. And so for a lot of the reasons that you said already, I see a lot of Joe Batonio. Of course, he's playing for the Browns. My Steelers play him twice a year, and this is a guy. If not for Zach Martin, this guy he definitely should be in that conversation still, and I think he is, but I don't think necessarily he's just as appreciated as he probably could and should be because of Zach Martin. But Chop just told you 5 consecutive All Pros. His last 3 years have been the best three graded. Now, mind you, his last 3 years have been the best of his career, but he's been an All Pro for the last 5, and so he was already at the top of the league 5 years ago now, and
But
then
he got better. But he
and
got
he
better.
got better since he crested the position and been at the top of the league, and he's improved every year since then, and totaling these last 3. Now the only thing is, just like my dog Chop said, he is a guy. He's on the other side of 30, so he's I think 32, 33, something like that. And so I'm not sure how we're not sure necessarily how much longer he maintains this level of play, but as where he's at now, and kind of what my dog Chop was saying, we've seen before the shelf life on offensive linemen. It does go quite a bit further than it does for more athleticism based positions like running backs and like receivers, guys that their success or dominance relies so heavily a lot of the times on their athletic ability. Well, trench play, and especially on the interior guard play, a lot of it comes down to strength, raw power, your anchor, and then, like I said, now footwork is going to be key as well. But strength, your power, your ability to generate power, a lot of power in a small space. Those are some of the things. Just like in boxing, they tell you power is the last thing to leave a boxer. He'll lose his speed, he'll lose his chin, he'll still pack a punch though. You know what I mean? So power is the last thing to leave, and I think that holds true with offensive linemen as well, and probably defensive linemen as well, where a lot of things change, but man, that strength is one of the last ones to go. And then Chop will tell y'all, man, it's a whole that grown man strength is a whole nother type of strength, man. When you sell into your full grown man body, you know what I mean? You done had a couple kids, you done had a wife or two, some of y'all, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You sell into that, it's a whole nother
That's a different ball game, dog.
a whole
It's a
other
different ball
ball game
game.
of strength, man. It just really is. So I think these offensive linemen, like my dog Chop said, man, we see them able to sustain their level of play, like a Jason Kelsey, who's 36, 37, 38 years old, is still at the top of this league. A guy like Joe Patonio, who's creeping towards 35. He's getting older in the realm of professional sports, still at the top of this league. And Trent Williams, a career resurgence once he moves to San Francisco after the age of 30. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, man, I think a lot of that is because we hold on to that strength and can able to maintain and sustain that play for longer, like I said, than other positions. And so, yeah, Joe Patonio, man, like I said, I don't know how much longer he'll be sitting at that top table, but man, for the last 5 years, being as dominant as he's been, seeing that he's as great as he's been over that span, the last 3 have been his best ever. And so, like I said, man, that's a remarkable feat. And so, yeah, got him in my number 2 spot.
Gotcha. All right, Willie Jack. Well, let me go on to my number 2, man. My number 2 is actually going to be Zach Morton, man. You mentioned him a little bit on your list, man. And Zach Morton is my number 2 guy on my guards list. Okay, here's why. Okay, first off, just when you thought he was getting ready to give up that, give up the spot. You know what I'm saying? As that main guy in charge in terms of guard. I talked to y'all a little bit about Quentin Nelson, and Quentin Nelson was on his way. Zach Morton kind of kicked it into another gear, man. He kicked it into another gear and kept reminding everybody, hey man, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm at the top. And we talked about the contract situation earlier. It was like, hey man, I need that bread. So give me my money. I need to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But he's pretty much a lock to enter the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? He's already solidified his spot. Season after season, he's been an all pro, been at the top of his game, been in the league, been very reliable in terms of his availability. And when he's on the field, of course, we know what he brings to the table. A true staple to this Cowboys offensive line. We've been talking about the Cowboys having one of the best offensive lines for years, and he's probably one of the reasons why. Or not probably, he is one of the reasons why. A very sound pass blocker with great feet. And he's also very similar to Jason Kelsey when it comes to his run back blocking ability. And when you see him getting out there, pulling and getting out there down the field to that second and third level, to carry that running back, in which it'll be a guy named Tony Pollard, in which we were screaming free TP all.
Yes, sir.
My dog Willie Jack was screaming it, but getting to that second and third levels, the way he moves, his speed, his athleticism, and the way he create angles on his blocks, man, he does it like none other, man. He's been at the top of the game for a while, and that's why I'm going to continue to keep him up there in that mix, but just at my number 2 spots. Okay, and I know you probably got him in a second, Willie Jack. So I'm gonna go ahead and push to my number 1,
Go
and
ahead.
my number 1 is Atlanta Falcons Chris Lindstrom, man. This is a little bit of a prediction for me. Not a little bit of a prediction. No, this is a prediction. Um, but to me, this is going to be the changing of guards, in my opinion. We're going to have a new top guy, a consistent top guy for some years to come. Just like Zach Martin has been at the top of his game for years, Chris Lindstrom is going to be the next guy. Okay, emerged from that Atlanta offensive line as the best guard in the league last year, in my opinion. Although a lot of these guys have been doing it longer, he took the step to say, "Hey, man, I'm a new dog in town." Okay, and I'm predicting that he holds on to that spot. I'm predicting he holds on to it, and he's going to be the best for some time to come. All right. Um, and the crazy part is Atlanta has some good pieces. They have some good pieces, in which I'm not gonna get into this with Willie today. I've been telling Willie.
Here you go.
I've been telling Willie a long time, man. All these good pieces, we gonna get into that. But anyway,
Here you
Chris
go.
Lindstrom, Chris Lindstrom, man, a,
Yeah.
a, a great piece of this offensive line. They have another one of those teams. They have a great unit, and they're another example of when you have some good interior guys that can put it together. That creates a great unit, man. Behind in front of Marcus Mariota and then Desmond Ritter and Tyler Algier, man, those guys were able to put together a great rushing attack. And like you said, Willie Jack, I'm anxious to see what they're going to look like blocking for a guy like Bijan Robinson,
Mhm.
for years to come. So I got Chris Lindstrom as my number 1, man, predicting that he stays at the top of this list and continues to hold on to that top spot.
Yeah, no, like I said, man, I'm not mad at it, man. Like I said, I mean, only thing is, I've got Zach Martin at my number 1 spot. Like I said, and just like we were saying before, man, he's a guy that he's set the tone at the position and carried and taken that torch since he got here, and he took over from a guy named Marshall Yonder. Longtime guard with the Ravens, man. Y'all don't know about them uglies in them trenches, man. But Marshall Yonder was an absolute animal, man. Longtime guard for the Ravens. And then as right toward the end of his career, man, Zach Martin comes in for Notre Dame. He was a tackler at Notre Dame. He's one of those guys where Peter Skoronski is a guy that was in this year's draft class who played tackle. It was anticipated that he would need to move to guard. And so the example that we have of that working at the best, at the highest level, is a guy like Zach Martin. So tackle out of Notre Dame, gets drafted in the first round, top 20, right around top 20 or so, or maybe around top 15 by Dallas. Not a sexy pick. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to see a guard, drafted that high when you've got guys that score touchdowns, in the draft. But kind of a credit to Dallas, like we said before, they're a team that really focuses and puts emphasis on that front. They go get Zach Martin, transition to guard, and then you can cancel Christmas. From then until now, he's been a guy that's firmly kind of set himself at the top of the position for longer than he's been near it. Like I said, he is starting to finally get a little older. Some of these guys, some of these Chris Lindstroms, and some of these other guys may pop up. These Quentin Nelsons, they pop up every now and again. But compared to what he's done to this point, the established consistency and dominance that he's shown from these relative flashes in the pan. You know what I'm saying? Quentin Nelson, man, oh yeah, man, it was real cute, man. Yeah, you came out of nowhere and looked real good. Boy, I ain't seen you in a while, though, man. Where you been? I'm still sitting at the top. I ain't seen you in a little while, boy. Where you been? Oh, Chris Nelson, hey, man. Welcome, Chris, man. Hey, yeah. Hey, y'all sit down, man. Give Chris some room to sit down. You just got here, playboy. You know what I'm saying? You can sit at my table, though. You know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at you. It's Zach
He,
Martin.
he the security at the door. He letting them in. He
Yeah,
decided who's
yeah, you
going
know what I'm
in.
saying?
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like this Zach Martin's table, man. So I'm gonna let the OG still sit on top, man. I definitely agree, like you said, though, man. What we just saw for Chris Lindstrom, this last season. I think going forward, I think kind of like I was saying as well. I think going forward, he's gonna be a guy that probably takes and carries that torch going forward. Him and Quentin Nelson. If Quentin Nelson returns to form, I think it was kind of trending that maybe Quentin Nelson was going to be that next guy. Well, then he kind of steps away. He takes a couple steps back these next couple years, and then we see a guy like Chris Lindstrom really show up and really have a truly dominant and special year at the guard position this last year. And so going forward, man, it's probably going to be he's probably going to be that guy but for me right now, man, the OG Zach Martin, man. When you look for consistency at the position, man, I think it's hard to argue Zach Martin somewhere at or near the top of that position.
Gotcha. All right, Willie Jack. Well, that brings us. Oh, no. Before I jump into there, is there anybody that's on the honorable mention list, man, that you want to throw out there, man, and let us know, man? Who you
Yeah,
got?
for sure, man. Next guy on my list was Elgton Jenkins, the offensive lineman from the Packers. He's I think he's a guard now, but he spent time at guard and tackle. I think he's played a little center, and he's a guy honestly that he could probably be a Pro Bowler at any position on the offensive line. And so they've got him settling in more so at guard, and I think he's one of the better young players at the position for sure. And like I said, he's got I think probably the most versatile piece, one of the most versatile offensive linemen in the league. I think he's a truly a guy that in a pinch could probably play all five spots. So he was going to be my next guy. Then after him, Wyatt Teller, man, the other guard in Cleveland. Like I said, him and Joe Batonio, man, have had probably the best guard tandem probably for like the last 3-4 years. Trey Smith, the young guy in Kansas City that plays across from Joe Tooney, they're another very exciting 1-2 punch. But those would be the next couple guys that I would mention.
Gotcha. The one guy I like Elgton Jenkins, and I also like Kevin Zeitler of the Baltimore Ravens. But the one guy I was going to mention was Michael Onwenu, another New England Patriots offensive guard. And just like you mentioned with Elgton Jenkins, he also spent some time, a little bit of time at tackle, and then moved over to guard and kind of found a home there. Man, was able to be successful, continue to to show that he can be a valuable piece in this offensive line. And here's the thing, too, with these offensive line pieces over the New England Patriots, man, Mac Jones needs to step it up. Mac Jones needs to step it up, show them what he can do. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he's fully capable, but
Hey, look, man, wait. In fairness, we gotta remember he didn't have an offensive coordinator last year. Remember last year when we really think about? Remember they had the deep Matt Patricia was experimenting at offensive coordinator last year. So this is man, I'm hoping Mac is gonna have a better year, man. Now that he's got a real OC and Brian and Billy O'Brien, he's back home as the OC, man. So I'm hoping maybe Mac shows a little more than he did last year for sure. But it was hard going for Matt last year.
But we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see. Yeah. All right, Willie Jack. Well, let's bring it on home, man. We got the top 5 tackles going into the 23 season. We talked about centers, we talked about guards. Now let's touch on the tackles, man. Let's talk about these tackles going into the 2023 season. And I'm gonna start it off, man. And I actually couldn't wait to talk about this guy, man. I couldn't wait because this is a guy Willie been giving me stuff about for a long time, man. For a long time because me and him had a conversation on, all right, should you get him or should you get Chase? Should you get him or should you get Chase? Now, don't get me wrong. So far, Chase has shown, and I think this is very situational, okay? So hear me out. The guy I'm talking about first and foremost is Lions offensive tackle, man, Penei Sewell, okay? Now, first and foremost, let's talk about this. Chase has shown that he's the real deal for sure. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite wide receivers in the league, and showed that, hey, man, he came in and did his thing with Joe Burrow. But here's the thing. Joe Burrow is one of them ones. With Chase, without Chase, Joe Burrow is one of them ones. What Penei Sewell came into the league and did was just block and show everybody that, hey, man, we got this. We're going to make Jared Goff look the best he's ever looked. We're going to make Jared Goff look like a top 8 quarterback in the NFL this season, man. With me at my peak. You know what I'm saying? And that's a feat in itself. You know what I mean? We know Jamar Chase is going to do what he do. We know Joe Burrow is going to do what he do. And they still got some more weapons or whatever. We're not going to take away any of that. So, go get Joe Burrow. Go get Jamar Chase. But what Penei Sewell is doing over there with the Lions at the offensive tackle position, man, complete domination, man, has completely stepped into it. A little bit of a slow start his first year, but is now coming into his own and showing like, hey, man, it's a reason why they was looking at me this early. Like, I'm the real deal. I'm the truth. And kind of similar to, I ain't going to say similar, but because we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Penei Sewell came in and showed like, hey man, this is what y'all draft me for. I can be one of the best pass blockers in the league. If you need me to get out there, be athletic and do some things in this run game, I can open up holes and let DeAndre Swift make some plays. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we on that goal line. Don't worry about it. Jamal Williams, go ahead and get you double digit touchdowns, man. You know what I'm saying? We gonna take care of you up front. And I think that was the one thing I liked about the Detroit Lions from the very beginning because they built on both sides of the ball, they built inside out. You know what I'm saying? They drafted 2 defensive tackles, drafted a lot of offensive linemen, and they slowly start to build around those guys. And now we're seeing the Detroit Lions forming to, just about a complete team, man, year by year. So I really like what they did. I like Penei Sewell, and that's why I got Penei Sewell, man, as my number five spot.
No, and I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Remembering all those jewels I be dropping, man. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. I appreciate you, man. It's nice to know that you be taking in. You know what I'm saying. Some of that wisdom when I be taking you to the water. You know what I mean. So I appreciate you, big dog. But no, I agree with a lot of stuff you said, man. Penei, he missed my 5. If the list goes to 10, he was gonna make my 10. But I do have him missing my 5, and I think it's he's still super young in position as well. I think he's going into year 3, I want to say. Came in, was a little bit of a slower start. He was drafted to be, I guess, the next prototype left tackle. They ended up moving him over to the right tackle. And then once he got on that right side, he really kind of kind of balanced out and found a home. And then, yeah, just like you said, man, definitely one of the most athletic and most powerful run blockers at the position. I think he's still got a little ways to go, refining his pass blocking a little bit. But yeah, man, for his size, his athleticism, like all those things they had him in that top 5 draft conversation, all that stuff is still true. And like I said, and now especially, man, sitting on that right side for that Lions offensive line, I think he's a guy that's only getting better. And I think for me, he's probably a year or two away from getting in that top 5. But I do like I see where you were going there because I think he's definitely a guy worthy of that conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So come on back with it then, Willie Jack. Who's your number 5 guy?
Number 5 for me is where I'm gonna go. Damn. 4 and 5. I was going back and forth. Number 5, I'm gonna go Tristan Wirfs. I'm gonna go Tristan Wirfs right now at number 5. And so he was another guy, man. He was an athletic marvel. When he came into the league, I was trying to remember where he came in from. It's like now, as soon as I was going to say that, now I lost it. But he was a guy, I think, huh?
Did he come from?
I almost
Oregon?
not.
Did he come from Oregon?
No, I was going to say Iowa.
No, he did come from Iowa. He did.
It?
He did come from Iowa. Penei Sewell came from Oregon. Tristan Wirfs did come from Iowa, bro, because he came out with Jedrick Wills.
Yes, he did. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and so I've got him there at number 5, and so he's another guy, man. He's very athletic for sure. He definitely moves well. He's a very strong guy as well. I think when he was coming in, I think he was a guy that he maybe had like a couple lifting records at the University of Iowa, maybe for like deadlifting and maybe squat. And so very powerfully built dude. Like I said, very athletic, moves very well. And then, like I say, he plays on that right side. I know there was talk that they were thinking about transitioning him over to the left side this year before they end up, I guess, replacing their left tackle, so they'll leave him on that right side. I think this last year, I think he didn't play quite as well as he had the 2 years before. But I think a lot of that does have to do with just injuries across that offensive line as a whole, just like Chop was saying. So the center, the kind of the brains of the operation on the offensive line, or kind of the guy that kind of holds it all together. He was out or missed a lot of time, if not the bulk of last season. And then, like I said, a couple changes all up and down that line as well. But a young guy, he's still been very, very, very dependable and solid at the position already. And so I've got him there at number 5 for me. I got a feeling he may be, I got a feeling I'm probably a little lower than he probably could be. But 5 is where I'm going for Tristan Wirfs right now.
I got you. Cool. Well, yeah. Well, go ahead and move on to your number 4 then, Willie Jack. Who's your number 4 guy?
Number 4 for me is another one of these guys that I tried to put my guy Chop on when the time was coming, when the man was coming into the league. I said, Chop, You know what I'm saying? Offensive line's a little different, man. You got to go. I want a guy that's been in them trenches. I want a guy that's been on the field. I want a guy that's did it, man. You know what I'm saying? These is grown men you got to block in the league. Guy I'm talking about is Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas from the New York Giants has grown into the player I told Chop he was going to be, man. You know what I mean? He was a 3 or 4 year starter at, I want to say it was Georgia, if I'm not sure. But I believe it was Georgia.
Georgia.
But no, man, a guy that I think what I liked about him coming in is that he was a guy, I think he was a 4-year starter, but he looked like a very experienced, like he looked like a guy who was ready to go. He looked mature. You know what I mean? Like a guy like Broderick Jones, who my Steelers just moved up in the draft to get, also out of Georgia. I see the raw size, the athleticism, the raw strength and raw power, but he doesn't have any of the technique or just the subtle the subtle comfortability that just comes with a guy who's so experienced at the position. And so those are the things I liked about Andrew Thomas. His first year in New York, I think it was there was some growing, a little bit of growing into the position. But now that he's got himself comfortable, you know what I'm saying? He laid on out, Chop. You know what I'm saying? He done laid on out. Who's that coming around the edge? Now you good, Playboy? Yeah, keep it moving. Oh, stun inside? Yeah, you good, Playboy. Keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So he's really kind of found his way, man, and settled into his own. And he's playing damn good ball, man, up there in New York. Was probably a guy, man, who's one of the big reasons we saw the rebirth of Saquon. And so he's definitely the leader on the up front on that Giants offensive line. And like I said, man, a guy who I think is really found himself a home, man. And I think going forward, he's going to be a guy that's just going to be a stable at the position. I think just nice and easy, man. Smooth does it. You put him on the left side, and you don't even look over there. You know what I mean? Just that's the level of play I'm expecting from him going forward, man. So a guy that really kind of hit the league and panned out.
Gotcha, Zach. And I give you your props, man. You did scope this one out, man. But I didn't see it. I didn't think.
I'm trying to think of who the guy came in with him. It was like
it was them three. It was Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas,
and worse, they were all three in the same.
Those were the top 3 guys going into
you was a big Wills guy. Jedrick Wills was your guy.
Hey man, I love me some Jedrick Wills. And Jedrick Wills still solid. He's not on this list. He's not a top 5 guy. He's still solid. I don't think he's the top 10 guy. But if we did like a top 15 list, he'll probably
he might creep in there.
Yeah, he might creep into the top 15 list. But I like that Willie Jack. Actually, Andrew Thomas was my number 6. I had him on number 6 spot.
Okay.
And I probably left him off the list just because I knew you was I was doing this show with you. That's probably why I left him off. No, but in reality, man, I had a little bit of a different thought in terms of you, Willie Jack. I thought he was a little bit more raw when he came into the league, and he needed a little bit of coaching when it came to like the techniques and stuff like that. But either way, the first year it was a little slow, but after that, man, he got real comfortable, and like you said, it was smooth sailing. You know what I mean? And he's showing why. All right, this is why you come get a guy like me earlier in the draft. And this side is solidified over here. We good over here. Don't worry about it. You know, run blocking, pass blocking. He does it all. And I am starting to come around on Andrew Thomas, Willie Jack. So I ain't mad at you, man. Number 4 tackle on your list. I ain't mad at you, big dog.
Appreciate you.
I'm mad at you. All right, let's go into my number 4. So my number 4, okay, and my list, I think my list has a little bit more of a projection in it than yours may have, Willie Jack. We'll see how it pans out. But I'm going to go Lane Johnson as my number 4 tackle on this list. Okay. All right. Now, I imagine my dog Willie Jack has him a little higher. You know, he had his season or whatever, did his thing, all pro guy. You know what I mean? And when it comes to, moving companies, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to lifting, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to moving furniture or, tossing some things to the side, when it comes to anything related to heavy lifting, Lane Johnson is the guy you want to call, man. Along with the other guys on that offensive line unit of the Philadelphia Eagles, man, Lane Johnson is one of those guys. He is moving anything in sight. You know what I'm saying? You step into his way, hey, man, it's the Lane Johnson moving company. What y'all need me to do? Oh, him right here. Oh, this defensive end coming off the edge. Don't worry about it. I don't even sweat it. I got this. Oh, you need me to move this 3 tech right here? Oh, I can block down. We're gonna get him on out the picture. You gonna pull around me. Hey, Jason Kelsey, go ahead and clear this thing out, man. We're gonna open up these holes, man. We're gonna go ahead and let Miles Sanders rush for 1,200, 1,300 yards this season. You know what I'm saying? So That's the type of guy Lane Johnson was for this offensive line unit. I think he is a hell of a talent. Also, part of the reason why Jalen Hurts can make the type of improvements that he's made from the year previous to that 2022 season, is because he can count so much on that offensive line. Running those read options, doing all the things they were able to do. Because hey, he was good. You didn't have to worry about nothing when it came to those guys. And Lane Johnson was a huge part of that. So Lane Johnson is my number 4 guy. Like I said, I imagine you got him a little bit higher, Willie Jack, but hey, I got him on my number 4 spot because, like I said, I'm predicting a little bit, man. So Lane Johnson sits at number 4 for me.
Man, hey, he's definitely on my list, man. But he's got a little while, man. If I could talk about it, man, so I hold off on this one.
You gonna hold off on it? That's
Yeah, I
cool.
hold
That's
this one.
good.
Go ahead, take
Well,
it to
let me
your
move
number
on to
3.
my number 3 then. While you holding off, I'm gonna talk to you about Tristan Wirfs, man. Let me talk to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk to you about it. So here's the thing with Tristan Wirfs, all right? He's the one guy that came into the league. When he came in with those other 2 guys, he was the athletic specimen. He was the freak, I'm saying, at that offensive tackle position. And it was like, oh man, we got to go get him. You know what I'm saying? And then all he just needs is a little bit of coaching. Once we get a little bit of coaching, he's gonna be fine. Turns out he didn't need as much coaching that first year. Didn't give up a sack all year long, blocking for Tom Brady. Now, the year after that, you saw a little bit of a setback, of course, with injuries and things like that happened. But I think that this year we're going to see him start to step into his own personality, his own game, and show that, all right, once I really started to focus in on the technique side of things, beforehand I could just do it with my athletic ability because I was just, I'm bigger, faster, stronger than most of the people coming into this league. But now, once I add that technique piece, that will take me to the next level of my game. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that after his season, this humbling season he just had. Not saying that it was a bad season by any means. He still had a good season, but I think it was humbling from his expectations, from his standpoint, and the success that he is capable of having. I think he knows that. I think he understands what he's fully capable of, and I think we're going to see more of that going into this 2023 season. So maybe he wasn't a top 5 tackle this past year, but going into this 2023 season, I think that we're going to see him, move back up into that list and be comfortable as a top 3 tackle in his league, man. So Tristan Wirfs is my number 3 spot.
No, and like I said, man, not mad at that at all. And just like you said, I think he is a guy that of those big 3 coming in that class, he definitely hit the ground running. And so, like I said, it took Andrew Thomas a year to kind of get himself settled in, and much like you said, man, Tristan Wirfs kind of hit the ground running. And then also, man, one of the benefits, I guess, he came in, Tom Brady comes over, and then they have so much success right out the gate, man. He wins the Super Bowl. Is that his second year there? I don't know if they won that first year with Tom, but they win the Super Bowl there pretty quickly, and then now, like you said, man, having such a humbling season just this last season, man. So he's in a short span in the league. He's got to see the highest of the highs and experience some of the lowest sides as well, man. When you're not competitive as well. So, but yeah, no, just like you said, man. As far as his play the position, man, he's a guy. He stays healthy. He's another one of those guys, man, that looks to be a stalwart at the position going forward for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Willie Jack, it's
All
on you,
right.
man. Who you got at your number 3?
Number 3 for me, man. This is where I've got Laramie Tunsil, man. So the left tackle from the Houston Texans, and so I think as a pure pass blocking left tackle or tackle in this league, I think he's probably the best. And so I think just purely pass blocking, I think for the longest that was David Bakhtiari, the long-time blindside protector for Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. And so if you're talking just keep my guy clean, be on my blind side and keep the quarterback standing up. David Bakhtiari was probably the standard at that position for the better part of a decade as well. But a guy that dealt with and is still dealing with just so many injuries, and so he hasn't played a full season in a while, and etc. But picking up kind of that mantle in my mind as I just need a guy on the left side that keeps anybody from touching my quarterback. I think right now today the best guy at that in the league is Laramie Tunsil. And so, and I've got him there at my number 3 spot. Capable as well in the run game, but I think really definitely specializes in pass protection and the advanced analytics tell that story for him. Interesting thing about him that I always remember, he was coming out of Ole Miss. He was projected on being definitely the first tackle drafted, but a guy that was probably projected to be in like the top 5. Like at worst, top 5. He was a guy in consideration for like a top 3 pick as a lineman. He's the guy his stepfather, I think, was trying to like blackmail him or extort him for money or something like this. Releases like 30 minutes before the draft starts. The stepdad released a video that shows Laramie Tunsil smoking weed through like a face mask bong or whatnot, and trying to sabotage him, I guess, when he didn't want to be extorted. And so anyway, all told, he does fall in the draft, but falls to 13. And then, like I said, we're 5-6 years down the road now, and he's regained the position that we thought he's the player that he was projected to be, a guy at the very top of the league at the position, especially if you're talking pass protection. And honestly, man, he's still a very young guy. He's got a very nice bag that he collected from Houston as well. And so I'm curious to see now that he's going to be the stalwart bookend or left side blind protector for like a young CJ Stroud now coming in. They've got that young running back in Damian Pierce, who already kind of started to make a name for himself as a bruiser. And so kind of going forward, I'm curious to see just how successful they could be. And he's going to be a key part to that success for the Texans team as they rebuild.
I gotta admit, Willie Jack, I'm surprised, man. I'm surprised. And I'm telling you for a couple reasons. One, you already hinted or that who was going to be one of the guys that's going to be up at the top of your list. And another guy that means has to be off and not on your list at all, which is very surprising to me. You know what I'm saying? Very surprising to me. But, hey, man, we'll see. I know you're going to talk about him at some point. And if not, I'm going to make you talk about him because I'm going to call you out. I'm going to say, hey, what's up? Where'd he go? What happened? What's going on?
I'm sure we'll talk about him.
Yeah. And especially if my dog finna get, in a minute. Don't even worry about it. Go ahead to your number 2, Willie Jack. Go ahead to your number 2, man, and so I can get to my 2 and 1 real quick.
I got you. And then perfect timing for me, man. Number 2, this is where I've got Lane Johnson, man. So Lane Johnson for me, I got at number 2. And honestly, man, at the right tackle position, I think he's the guy. He's kind of the elder statesman now because we've got these young guys on his heels, man. We've got Tristan Wirfs, we've got Penei Sewell. We've got and I don't know. I don't want to, in case I say some other names that you might still talk about, but we've got some of these other guys a little younger at the position on that right side coming up the ranks, and these guys are being pretty dominant as well. But the guy who's sitting at the top of that right tackle the top of that right tackle mountain, Jesus. For me, that's still Lane Johnson. He's another guy, man. He's on that other side of 30. And so, but I think he's 32, 33 years old. He's already dealt with some injuries and such. But I want to say there was a crazy stat that came out. He didn't give up a sack last year, but I think there was a stretch where he had went like 2.5 seasons without giving up a sack or something. It was some type of extended record like that, which is just phenomenal, especially when you look at and think about the rushers in this league right now. I don't know if it's ever been a time where there were more quality pass rushers in the league just across the whole league than there is right now. And to have that type and to be able to make that type of statement that like, man, hey, I don't care. I don't know what them boys doing to you, but round here, yeah, everybody pay the toll around here. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody cross the road unless I take them somewhere. You know what I mean? Just like my dog Chop said earlier, man, when it's time to move some furniture on the right side of that line, boy, hey, Lane Johnson, get out there and clear the way. And so he's still playing phenomenal all-pro level ball. And like I said, I think tackles and offensive line as a whole, I think their shelf life extends into their 30s without worry necessarily. As long as, like I said, barring injury, I think a guy can maintain his level of play. Let Jason Kelsey on his own offensive line be the example. Man, if he's 32, 33, he may have another 5 years of quality all-pro level ball in him. And we've seen it done just two spots over in Jason Kelsey. And so, like I said, man, with the way the offensive line can still play, assuming he has got over his injury bug hump, this is the guy that's definitely playing some of the best ball he's played since he came into the league out of Oklahoma.
Gotcha. Willie Jack, I respect him at number 2, man. I respect him at number 2, but here's where your boy got to come down on you a little bit, man. I gotta let you know about yourself, man. Gotta let you know about yourself. Okay, and I'm gonna jump into my number 2 spot. And I told y'all already, man, if my guy J Herb finna get this MVP, you know what I'm saying? It's certain guys around him that's gonna have to play well. And if nobody else plays well, that left tackle position has to protect J Herb for him to do his thing.
I love it.
Number 2 guy is gonna be Rashawn Slater. Okay, now let me address this real quick, fam.
Love it.
My dog Willie Jack is a Rashawn Slater fan.
Hey, that's a
He
fact, man.
was preaching throughout the year that this was the best tackle in the NFL his rookie year.
Yeah,
The
man.
guy gets injured one time,
Hey,
and Willie sits up here and shows me or tells me that he ain't about to be no top 5 tackle in this league.
hey, no loyalty, guys. I had no
I'm
loyalty,
I'm
man.
appalled at you, Willie Jack. I'm appalled. Okay, you know what? You know what Rashawn Slater got that Laramie Tunsil ain't?
What's
Is an
that,
all pro. His rookie year, he was second team all pro. Rashawn Slater, man, came in and took set the lead on fire, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, and did all those different things. And he was showing signs that, hey man, I'm here to stay. I'm gonna be one of the best in the business for a long time to come until he had the injury or suffered the injury that he suffered that took him out for the season.
yeah.
And you mean to tell me he's coming back this year and he's not gonna be one of the best? Oh yeah, man.
Hey,
Rashawn
good.
Slater is my number 2 tackle on my list, man. And just let me give him a little bit of praise
Go
here,
ahead.
man. From pass blocking, you know what I'm saying? One of the better blockers in the league. He was a little bit of an underdog. If you look at him, man, you see all these big guys and they strong and burly guys. Man, this guy got a baby face. You know what I'm saying? He looks like an R&B singer by the face. But if you try to outside, you try to rush him on the try to get past him, pass rushing on the outside, and while he's at left tackle, man, you can forget about it. You can cancel that. You know, 6'3", 315, man. The guy's solid. The guy's great. Works hard. Great work ethic, and he's going to be the catalyst as to why Jay Herb. Oh, I know you go up top, Willie Jack. I'm gonna go up top. Jay Herb is your 2023 NFL MVP, man. Rashawn Slater is my number
Man.
2 tackle on this list.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm gonna applaud you, man. I love that he's on your list. I almost had him at 5, but I was like, man, he's got the
Hey,
one rookie
I
year.
know for the thing was, it's no way you can tell me this number 1 guy on your list. So I said he has to not have loyalty with this guy Rashawn Slater, because when I get to number 1, if he ain't on your list at all, we
Hey,
really got a
I'm
problem.
not, yeah, you know.
We got to go back to the drawing board and figure out if you deserve to be on the show or not.
Hey, you gonna pull my film speak card? Nah, I ain't made nothing foolish like that. But not, I'm not gonna lie, man. I absolutely love the player. He came in from Northwestern. They were projecting to move him to guard because, just like Chop said, he's not the big, long, lean, lanky kind of frame that we want now at tackle. You know, he's only 6'3". He's got arms. He's got those kind of shorter arms like a guard as well. And so he was the guy projected to move inside. But no, he was the guy, man. When I looked at the film, I'm like, nah. Arm size be damn, arm length be damn, whatever else you want to talk about. Turn on the Ohio State film. There was one guy that blocked Chase Young in his college career at Ohio State. That one guy's name was Rashawn Slater. And when I tell you he blocked him, I even blocked him. It wasn't close. Stonewalled him, washed him. You know what I'm saying? Across 4 quarters, and that was all I need to see. You know what I mean? And that coupled with, like I said, the level of play we've seen from him. But hits the league, man. Phenomenal year, second team All Pro. He is so young, and he's coming off of the injury where he missed, I think, just about the whole year. And so I felt like I might have been too much of a homer if I threw him in there with such a small sample size, man. And then these guys,
That's why it's called a projection, man.
yeah,
2023
you know what I mean.
Rashawn Slater, dog.
No, so some of these guys, man, are still playing such good ball. Like he's a guy because, like I said, Lane Johnson, he's you know what I'm saying, he's getting to that point. The guy who I'm sure is going to be at both our number one position, he's getting to that point where the top 2 guys on my list are probably going to phase themselves, out of that mix, and then it'll be, these young guys with Rashawn Slater being a big part of that coming up into that group, man. But that's why I left him out, man. Like, he's such a young guy. He's got one dominant year in, then one injury year. You know what I mean? So he's gonna only go into his 3rd season. So I was like, you know what? Let me let him do it. Put a little more work in, and I'll come right back to him. But I'm glad he made your list, though. I'm glad we got to talk about it. I was definitely gonna bring him up.
All right, Willie Jack. All right, I'll let you slide, I guess, this time, man. But that leads me to my number 1 guy, and I guess Willie Jack, we both can talk about it, man. And my number 1 guy is Trent Williams. Okay, Trent Williams, my number 1 guy going into the 2023 season, and he is one of those. He's actually a prime example of when we talk about offensive linemen getting old and things not changing. Yeah. Getting older and things not changing. 35 years old, man. Still one of the more athletic tackles in the league. Big guy. When it talks pass blocking, run blocking, he can do it all. And that's one thing you can count on. You know what I'm saying? Especially in that run game of that Shanahan offense, man. I think he's a catalyst of that offense for sure. But I see constant highlights of that boy coming across the screen on a motion or whatever the case may be, full speed. That's one of
Man,
the things I do not want to be in front of. I tell you
eating boys lunch.
eating boys lunch, man. But even with just his down to down basis, we see a lot of those highlight plays, but down by down, man, just how dominant he is against the guys that he goes against on a day-to-day basis, man. And he's not going against, chumps. You know what I'm saying? He's going against, I don't know how often he goes against them one-on-one, but he faces guys like Aaron Donald or Leonard Floyd and over
Michael
in
Parsons.
Michael
The
Parsons
Cowboy
and
matchups.
all those different types of guys week in and week out, and he holds his own. That's one of the guys who was like, "Hey man, I'm good over here. I got this." He has the type of tackle body that you look for.
Oh yeah.
6'5", super long arms, super
Mhm.
strong, and he's just mean. He's just mean. He's not taking it easy on nobody. He's just different, man.
No,
Trent Williams is different, and hey, he brings it all when he's coming every down in and down out.
no, for sure. And I'll piggyback on it as well, man, and say, in addition to that, he's also a phenomenal athlete. Like if you hear
Absolutely,
guys, when you hear guys talk about him, like he's the type of guy, like if the team is going to the YMCA to play pickup basketball, Trent Williams handles the ball like a point guard. I've heard people talk about him playing, and he's a guy as well at 6'5", 330 pounds. He can 360 dunk a basketball. You know what I mean? So just a phenomenal athlete. Man, he's the guy, just like my dog Chop said, all the mean and nasty you want from one of them big uglies. So he's the guy that has that raging bull mentality. Like, don't get too close, don't look at me. I see red if you're on the other team, and I'm going, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm getting after it. Trent Williams pulling and heading your way has got to be one of the 2 or 3 scariest sights you can see on
yeah.
an NFL field.
Top 5 scariest things you ever run into.
You know what I'm saying? Like James Harrison, like looking at me when I'm coming across the middle of the field. Trent Williams pulling towards me. Ray Lewis running at me in the A gap. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain guys that like nobody wants a piece of these. Larry Allen pulling and running at you back in the day. You know what I mean? Like there's certain guys that in a room full of men, in a room full of bullies, these guys bullies. You know what I mean? Trent Williams is definitely one of those guys, man. And so happy to see him get this resurgence so late in his career, because he was a guy, he came in together with Tyron Smith, the longtime left tackle for the Cowboys, who was the guy that carried the torch and set the standard of position for all those years, being the number one guy. Well, Trent Williams was there for a lot of those years, sitting right there chilling, being 1B. It was just stuck in 1B for so long until finally, I think his last couple years that he played in Washington, for me, he had took over as the number one guy, and then goes out there to San Francisco and really is able to. It's a shame that he got his first All Pro just 2 years ago in his age 32 season. A guy that's been playing at an All Pro level for the better part of a decade, and so no, definitely a guy that sets the standard and sets the tone and sets the pace at the position, and it's only right, man, that he was the number one guy in both our lists. And then I just seen my dog get into the building, man. Shout out to my dog, Terrible Time Walker, our resident Texas fan. Hey, dog, Tunzel's on my list though. Tunzel was number 3. I got Tunzel pretty high on my list though, bro. Real talk. I said some real nice things about him. So you ain't hear all the nice things I said about him. You get in when I'm talking about somebody else. But he's number 3 on my list for sure.
And I don't know why you ain't in here, Tom. You know it ain't gonna be too many opportunities for us to talk nice about the Texans, man. So the few times we do, I think you need to be in here to hear this out, brother.
Hey, what y'all don't know about my dog Tom? Tom had an excellent kick step. Tom had a future as a pulling guard. Tom had a future as a pulling guard, but see, he had 2 left feet. If Tom didn't have 2 left feet, he could have been All Pro, man, as a pulling guard.
Hey, so my bad, y'all, but I got this picture. Y'all see, I got pictures on my walls, man, on both sides, right? And they got pictures of us playing, back in our college days, playing football.
Yeah.
I got a picture on my wall with Tom and his swag, man, on the football field. Tom was one of those Trey Hendrickson guys, man. He didn't wear no gloves. He just had tape around his knuckles. You know what I'm saying? He had super long socks. You know what I'm saying? He just, hey man.
Hey, my dog Todd said he was here for business. He
But
said,
my
hey,
but
it's a business
my
trip.
dog Tom got busy, man. He was like, what's my guy with the Rams, man? Old school.
Ooh,
The all timer, man. All time sack leader, man.
Deacon Jones?
Deacon Jones. That's what he looked like on the field. That's what he
Hey, well,
looked
that's a
like.
hell of a compliment now. That's a hell of a compliment now.
I ain't not when I'm talking about swag on the field. That boy, that boy was out there just
Hey,
like
my
Deacon.
dog. But
Nah,
yeah,
man,
hey, no,
for sure.
we gave Thompson some love though, man. I had him number. Matter of fact, we might as well recap the list then, man. It's perfect timing. Uh,
Yeah. Let's go ahead and recap the list, Willie Jack, and run back what we talked about, man. You want to start back with the
yeah,
with everything with the centers?
yeah. Well, no, I'll start these tackles, man, since it's fresh. But
Okay,
with
bet.
the tackles, man. So and while I got my dog Tom, man, number one, I had Trent Williams setting away. Number two, Lane Johnson, right tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number three is where I had Larry Tunsil, man. And so I did say I do feel like he's the best pure pass protecting tackle in the league for sure. I think that's goes to Laramie Tunsil. And then number four, Andrew Thomas, and number five for me, Tristan Wirfs were my
Gotcha,
tackle list.
gotcha. And my number one was the same as yours, Willie Jack. I had Trent Williams. Number two, I had Rashawn Slater. Three, Tristan Wirfs. Four, Lane Johnson. Five, Penei Sewell, right tackle with the Detroit Lions.
For
And
sure.
Laramie Thompson was my honorable mention, Tom. So I did talk about him a little bit as well, man. So that's what I had there. Moving on to the guards. At
Mhm.
number one, I had Chris Lindstrom, man. Chris Lindstrom, Atlanta Falcons guard. Zach Martin was my number two guard, Cowboys. Joe Batonio for Cleveland Browns guard. Four, Joe Tooney. And five, Quentin Nelson. Who was your top five in guards, Willie J?
So yeah, number one for me, I had Zach Martin. Two, Joe Batonio. Three, I had Joe Tooney. Or no, excuse me. Three, I had Chris Lindstrom. Four, I had Joe Tooney, and then five, I had Quentin Nelson.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the last list, man. Last list. Read your top five percenters off for me.
Yeah. So centers, I had number one, Creed Humphreys from Kansas City. Number two, Jason Kelsey. Number three, Frank Ragnow. Number four, Chris Lindsey. And number five, Ethan Posick from the Cleveland Browns.
Gotcha. And for me, man, I had also had Creed Humphrey number one, Kansas City Chiefs. Ragnow was my number two, Detroit Lions. Number three, Jason Kelsey, Eagles. Four, Corey Linsley, the Chargers, and five, David Andrews for the New England Patriots, man. And Willie Jack,
Yeah, man.
they say,
Oh, matter of
man.
fact, hold on. I don't know if we got into any honorable mentions on the tackle list. I don't think we got into them. If you had a couple,
My couple honorable mentions, man, would have been Andrew Thomas and Laramie Tunsil. Those were the two guys that I felt like were the closest to making my list. Two guys that, like I said, definitely play a lot of great ball. Another guy I just showed some love to as well, man. The other Philadelphia Eagles tackle, man, Jordan Mailata.
Mhm.
The guy who I think they converted from a rugby player, man. It's turned out to
Mhm.
be a hell of a tackle in the league, man. A guy that you know, does everything that you ask for. And he's been a very, very solid piece of the offensive line, man, holding it together. So we talk a lot about Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey, man. I want to give some a shout out to Jordan Mailata too. So
No,
those are my honorable mention guys.
no, and Jordan Mailata actually made my list as well, man, in the honorable mentions. So he's right there. Him. We already talked about Rashawn Slater, but with outside of Rashawn Slater, man, Malata, excuse me. Yeah, Jordan Malata for sure. And then Ronnie Stanley was another guy I looked at, man. He's been dealing with some injuries as well over these last couple seasons. But I think he's a guy that when he's been on the field and healthy, he's a guy that's shown that he's a premier guy on that left side. And then last one, man, a newcomer to the group. I want to mention his name, Christian Darrisaw, tackle from Virginia Tech, playing with the Minnesota Vikings. And man, he's a guy. I remember when he was coming into the league, he was polarizing for me because I think there were real questions about his motor and his effort, but he's a guy, man. When it's on, man, he could be very elite. And then last year, I think he really showed that, man. I think he had the second highest run blocking grade in the league. It was over 90, and then I think he was still over 80 as a pass blocker as well, or near 80 as a pass blocker as well. So another young guy still kind of finding his own, but he's a guy that's looking to really take another massive step forward this coming year for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Willie Jack, that's pretty much it, and that's all, man.
That's it. That's all.
We came, we saw, we conquered, man. Of course,
Yeah,
today
man.
we did the top offensive lineman going into the 2023 season, man. We went through the centers, we went through the guards, we went through the tackles, man. And we did it in style, you know what I'm saying? We did our thing. We had 15 names apiece, man. We normally do 10, and we usually push it to 2. So we just barely over today, man. I'm really surprised, Willie Jack. We was able to keep it
Yeah.
concise today, keep it straight to the point, you know what I'm saying? So we did our thing, Willie Jack. We got to pat ourselves on the back in terms of
Oh
that.
yeah, you know that. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah. So
Hey,
I'm
hey,
with you there, Willie Jack.
no for
But
sure. Hey,
go
oh,
ahead.
oh
Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna wrap it on up, man. I didn't know if you had something else.
What I wanted to let them know next week. Next week, we doing
Yeah.
tight ends and stack backers, man. Tight ends and stack linebackers for next week, man. So tune in with us next week, Wednesday. We're gonna talk about some of the best tight ends in the league. We're gonna talk about some of the best stack linebackers, two of my favorite positions, man, and two unique positions. So definitely tune in with us next week. But other than that, Willie Jack, you can now you can wrap us on up,
Hey,
big
that's it. That's all, man. Just like my dog say, man, we came, we saw, we conquered, man. Did what we had to do. 3 positions. Got through them bad boys. Didn't do too bad on the time. I call that a win any day. Some of them members were us in the building today, man. So one more time, man. Let's shout out to Fam Bam. Mom Dukes is in the building. Baby sisters in the building. Mrs. Child Wifey was in the building as well. And our dog, man, CMU alum, Terrible Town Walker, our resident Texas fan, was also in the building. Now, y'all know what I'm about to say. I say it every week. If I forgot to say your name, damn. Charge it to my head. Don't charge it to my heart. You know we thinking about you, big dog. Y'all know we appreciate all the love and support, man. Hey, I seen a lot of y'all in here today, man. Not everybody dropped y'all name and holler at me in that chat, man. We got to do better, man. You know what I'm saying? Drop your name in the chat, man. Say what's up real quick, man. We talk right back, man. So definitely want to see y'all in the chat. Appreciate everybody who did come through and show love for sure. Hey, next week, just like my dog said, man, right back like we left something. Tight ends and stack backers next week. So should be definitely an entertaining and fun show to do as well. And then, hey, other than that, man, y'all stay safe, y'all stay smooth. Until next week, peace.
Peace.